Part 43. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 439. As soon as the update arrived, I finally did not break my promise and coded it out. Can use double guns. In an instant, Chu Xia became excited. Could it be that Grandma Zhang is the legendary old woman with two guns? When she was young, her grandparents coaxed her to sleep and told the story of this character. To be precise, it was 4 characters with this name. Could it be that she saw one of the prototypes? In terms of exclusion, Zhao Hongguangu in the north and Deng Huizhong in the south are all out of possibility. The ages of Lu Longhua and Chen Lianji's grandparents seem to have never been mentioned. Fortunately, she remembered the names. What's Grandma Jiang's last name? Yu Tao asked in a low voice. Surname. Yu Tao thought hard for a while, then smiled embarrassedly. My memory has deteriorated so much recently, I really can't remember it. Chu Xia turned her gaze to Zhang Shan, who was quietly following behind her. Sister-in-law 3, what's wrong? Zhang Shan felt a little terrified by her look, and shrank her neck unconsciously. A certain Summer realized that her expression might be a little too urgent, so she adjusted it quickly, and asked in a low voice, what's your grandma's last name? Surname, don't know. Chu Xia has a black thread, what is the last name? In other words, this great-granddaughter is too unqualified, she doesn't even know what her grandma's last name is, she is really speechless. Seeing the astonishment on Chu Xia's expression, Zhang Shan quickly explained, grandfather walks away, no one in the family calls grandma by her first and last name. Haven't you walked around with the relatives of grandma's natal family? Yes, I have. Chu Xia really doesn't know what to say right now. Is there such a stupid person? Doesn't the old lady have whatever her maiden name is? Zhang Shan patted his head suddenly. Uncle's surname is Lin, so grandma should also be surnamed Lin. Neither Lu nor Chen. That would not be a legendary figure, but she has no regrets at all. And her last name too. Can use double guns, too powerful. If Mrs. Yang heard Chu Xia's voice at this time, I will definitely be staggering. Will it be the same thing if I can use 2 guns and accurately use 2 guns? It's too insulting to her. The old lady appeared in the hall, and the people who gathered together to reminisce about the past quickly surrounded them. Aunt Zhang, I wish you a long and healthy life. Grandma Zhang. Happy birthday. Grandma Zhang, there is today every year. Grandma Zhang. Aunt Zhang. One by one, after greeting the people who were in a hurry to ask questions, the old lady sat down and chatted with everyone. She is in her 90s and has a clear mind. Accurate enunciation. Chu Xia was envious when she heard it. If she was so bullish when she was old, how good would it be? Suddenly finding her mother-in-law's face darkened, Chu Xia was a little puzzled, followed her gaze, and saw Qin Xianji. By the way, she remembered that her father-in-law said that those who want to help mother-in-law vent their anger, have they vented their anger? Look at the expression on the mother-in-law now. In all likelihood, the father-in-law hadn't finished the task yet, so she unconsciously moved towards her mother-in-law. Well, she didn't know why she moved. Anyway, I just feel that being closer to my mother-in-law can be regarded as a clear support. Notice her little movements. The expression on Lin Yangkai's face eased a little, she smiled and patted her little hand lightly. Did not speak. Although Yu Tao didn't know what happened between her mother-in-law and Qin Xianji, but the year she married into the Zhou family, she met Qin Xianji when she accompanied her mother-in-law to buy New Year's goods. At that time, the other party and her mother-in-law were also having an unpleasant fight. At this time, although she didn't lean towards her mother-in-law, she looked at Qin Xianji more defensively. Lin Chuxia. Hearing the call, Chu Xia turned around, and it turned out to be Yang Xiaoli, who was standing behind her, grinning at her, eyes full of joy. Chu Xia hurriedly got up and greeted the other party. Yang Xiaoli, when did you come? I came down at that time, why didn't I see you? My dad's driver sent us here, and he had to finish my dad's work first, so we were late. Yang Xiaoli pointed to a middle-aged woman in her 40s in the distance. That's my mother. I came with her. Originally, I didn't want to come, but I thought I might meet you, so I came. Everyone is doing well, isn't there anything going on recently? Chu Xia asked Luo Xiaoxian, Lu Meijun, and the others after not seeing each other for a few days. Yang Xiaoli smiled mischievously, except that you are not here, everything else is fine. Chu Xia also laughed, and she found that Yang Xiaoli was not an annoying girl after she really became friends. Lin Mengran, Yang Xiaoli talked about Chu Xia, pointing to the door. Look, is that Lin Mengran? Yes, this guy is here too. Chu Xia smiled and shook his head. The world isn't that big, so let's go through it carefully. Does everyone have a relationship between vines and vines? Lin Mengran came up with an old lady in her 60s and a middle-aged woman in her 40s, and respectfully saluted and greeted old lady Zhang. When Mrs. Zhang stroked Lin Mengran's head and praised her, Chu Xia finally understood the relationship between them. It turned out that the Lin family that Lin Mengran belonged to was Mrs. Zhang's natal family. No wonder Mrs. Zhang is in such good health. Can she be in poor health if she comes from a martial arts family? Lin Chuxia, Yang Xiaoli, hello. After her grandmother and mother joined the hot chat group, Lin Mengran joined Chuxia and Yang Xiaoli. Yang Xiaoli smiled and poked her finger. Hey, you hid deep enough, and you pretended to be a poor household in the earliest days. Later, I said that my family has practiced martial arts for generations. Besides, if I introduce myself as Lu Xilan's family when I meet someone, don't you think it's showing off? You think you're not showing off enough? Bodyguards follow you everywhere you go, and everyone you see seems to be in debt to you. Yang Xiaoli curled her lips. I'll tell you, you were the one I didn't like the most at first, so you pretended too much. Gone to each other. Lin Mengran punched her respectfully. There are 2 bodyguards everywhere you go, offering you up like a princess. Whatever you say, everyone will look down on you. I'm also annoying. Do I look like that? Yang Xiaoli looked at Chu Xia. I don't believe what she said. Chu Xia, tell me, do I look like that? Almost. Chu Xia shrank his shoulders while talking. Anyway, you are both arrogant enough. I just have to hide in the corner as far away from you as possible. It's not safe to get close. Yang Xiaoli pushed her. You bad guy, are you making fun of us? That. Lin Mengran looked Chu Xia up and down. Which family do you belong to? Have you been pretending to be affectionate? I didn't pretend. Chu Xia pouted. I am what I am. I have never pretended. Then why did you come to my aunt's birthday? It's impossible to say that someone who can come here has no background. You can't lie to me, so hurry up and recruit the truth. I am married. Lin Mengran interrupted her. I know, I want to listen to the business. Chu Xia has a black line. Isn't getting married a serious matter? It's a serious matter, but what I want to hear now is your background. Lin Mengran suddenly stopped. You mean your husband's family has a very background? Chu Xia was so uncomfortable. They sat only 1 meter away from her mother-in-law and others. Okay. Miss, can you speak a little louder? Following Chu Xia's line of sight, Lin Mengran slapped his forehead fiercely. I know if you are married to, who is it? No. No, no, no. Yang Xiaoli nodded. Yes. Really? Lin Mengran's eyes doubled again, looking up and down. Chu Xia, what's your husband's family name? Eldest sister, is there something wrong with your brain? Chu Xia had black lines all over her head, and she no longer knew how to describe Miss Lin. I just want to make sure again. I know that the younger sister of the great aunt's family is married to the Zhou family. If you looked over there just now, you probably married her family, right? Chu Xia curled her lips to show her contempt. I didn't expect it, I didn't expect it. Lin Mengran repeated it over and over again, the words unbelievable were clearly written on her face. What do you mean? Yang Xiaoli punched her, what do you mean I didn't expect it? Make it clear. That. Lin Mengran glanced around, then lowered her voice, our family has nothing to do with the Zhou family, but they are related to my great-aunt's family, so, regarding the Zhou family, I have also heard of it more or less. The head of the group seemed to be very picky in this regard. 7 aunts and 8 aunts from various families, plus classmates and friends introduced girls to him. There were 800 girls if not 1,000, but he didn't even look at any of them, and directly refused. Everyone was wondering if he didn't like girls at all. Unexpectedly, he got married suddenly, let alone that the person he married was actually someone I knew. Tisk tisk, that's unbelievable. You mean I'm not good enough for him, right? Chu Xia squinted at her, aside from the background, what else is there that I'm not good enough for him? No, no, that's not what I mean, what I mean is, I don't know what he wants to choose. That doesn't mean I'm not good enough for him. No, Lin Mengran was about to cry, she really didn't know how to explain it. It's not nothing, it's nothing at all. Grandma, why don't you do this? Lin Mengran cupped his hands at Chu Xia again and again, I was wrong, it's all my fault, it's not that you are not worthy of the leader of Zhou, it is that the leader of Zhou is not worthy of you. It's more or less the same. Chu Xia raised her eyebrows and smoothed her hair, such a pink flower is inserted into his pile of old cow dung, of course he earned it. Lin Mengran stared at her dumbfounded, gave her thumbs up for a while, and then scrolled down, if you have the guts, speak up a little bit, then I will convince you. Chu Xia refused without any psychological burden, I have no guts, how can I say it out loud when I am joking in private? Lin Mengran stared at her speechlessly, you are such a rascal. Someone took it for granted, you just found out. Lin Mengran. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 440. The second update and the third update, the two chapters were uploaded together. Lin Chuxia, did you really grow up in the countryside? Yang Xiaoli put her head in front of Chuxia and looked at her carefully, you are too abnormal in terms of your manner of speaking and mentality. This is the second time you've asked me this question. I said, are you praising me or laughing at me? Chu Xia squinted at her, make it clear, otherwise, I'll turn against you. What are you pretending to be? Yang Xiaoli rolled her eyes, I was just complimenting you when I heard it, and you pretended to be confused with me, didn't you just want me to praise you more? Okay, I will satisfy you. I asked you this question last time, but you didn't give me a reasonable explanation. As for me, the longer I've been in contact with you, the more abnormal I feel. Of course, I am not looking down on rural children, nor do I look down on children from ordinary people's families, but in terms of facts, in terms of educational background and contact level, there is really no comparison. Do you admit my statement? Chu Xia nodded with a smile, that's right, children from ordinary families really can't compare with you in terms of educational background and exposure. But, don't forget that some years ago, some respected grandparents, uncles, and aunts with the same background as yours, or even deeper backgrounds than yours, went to the grassroots, so I can't be influenced by them. Yang Xiaoli quickly bowed her head and admitted her mistake, I was wrong, I promise, I will never ask you this question again, or, you are the second genius. Who is the first genius? Lin Mengran asked. Yang Xiaoli nodded her chin to Huang Sui's position. Didn't find out, they are all stars. People still like to ignore them. It looks pretty. Lin Mengran looked up and down, but, is this woman here to celebrate my grandma's birthday or to show off? Also, where is her genius? You don't know her, Yang Xiaoli looked at Lin Mengran in surprise, did your parents mention her to you? Lin Mengran looked puzzled. Why did you bring up her matter? Yang Xiaoli rubbed her forehead. Then you are so happy. I grew up listening to her deeds. Whenever I made a mistake, my mother would use her as an example to tell you that although I don't know her well, I hate her. Isn't this what later generations call neighbors' children? Chu Xia grinned. Ran. In terms of strength, she may not be as good as you, but in terms of intelligence, he. You mean that I'm not as smart as her? Lin Mengran expressed dissatisfaction. I haven't shown my true skills, I'm hiding my clumsiness, but tell me, where is her genius? Yang Xiaoli explained the story of Huang Sui that Zhang Shan had introduced to her in early summer, and she finished listening. Lin Mengran completely fell into a state of sluggishness, and shook her head after a while. Are you sure, this is all true? Do I need to exaggerate this? I'm not her admirer. Seriously, I wish this was all fake. Yang Xiaoli sighed. I wish it was all fake in my dreams. Chu Xia gave her a sympathetic look. This child was hurt so badly by the neighbor's child. In fact, she was also very touched by this. It's just that she was that other people's child at the time. Since childhood, she has a talent that is different from ordinary people in music, so her parents and grandparents focused on cultivating her in this aspect. As a result, she became a child of someone else's family among children of the same age who studied piano. In addition, her academic performance is also very good, which has become an example for many parents to use for comparison. The direct result is that no one wants to play with her. After her best girlfriend left, she has been lonely, going to school alone, eating alone, going to the library alone, going to the piano room alone. That kind of feeling is actually quite desolate. Of course, there is an essential difference between her and this Huang Sui. Looking at this Huang Sui's expression, she probably doesn't feel much about it, or she should enjoy this feeling very much, right? However, she can only be regarded as talented in one aspect, but this one is a real genius. She thinks that even if she tries her best, it is impossible for her to achieve Huang Sui's achievements. Hey, don't look at me with such eyes. Yang Xiaoli misunderstood Chu Xia's eyes, so she folded her arms and shrank her neck. Is it because I'm a cabbage in your eyes? Actually, I'm not that pitiful. Yes, I was compared occasionally, but most of the time, I was praised, so don't look at me with such bleak eyes, okay? Chu Xia quickly regained his expression, and curled his lips at her. Who is pitying you? I was thinking why I am not so talented, it is so enviable. If you are such a genius, I will stay far away from you and never have any interaction with you, Yang Xiaoli said and looked at Lin Mengran. What about you? Me? Lin Mengran raised her brows. The people I associate with are based on their character. Let me tell you, I am a martial arts genius. In this respect, can she compare with me? Learn from you and learn from you. Yang Xiaoli gave a thumbs up. I really want to learn from you. I also want to find my strengths, and find my strengths that she can't match. Do you still need to find strengths? Lin Mengran looked at her speechlessly. If you need to find strengths, is there any way to compare them with natural strengths? Let me tell you, I was born with it. By the way, Lin Chuxia, what are your strengths? Music skills are better, Chu Xia said. This is the truth, whether it is the original her or the current her, she is absolutely talented in this aspect. A few days ago, when Mrs. Wan went to visit, when Mrs. Yin was not at home, she deliberately challenged herself, and found that although she hadn't practiced much since she came here, not only did her skills not regress, but she was even more familiar with He Cheng. It can only be said that this body also has great talent in this regard. This is probably the fundamental reason why this main body, Lin Chuxia, was able to control her and let her family accept her from the beginning after entering her body. Thinking of this, she moved her fingers. The dexterity of these hands definitely exceeds her original one. It's probably not bad for holding a scalpel, right? She was taken aback by her sudden thought. Could it be that subconsciously, she wants to have a showdown with Huang Sui to be happy? Don't be kidding, she is now the chief surgeon, and she is a well-known doctor in the capital. She can't even handle a scalpel. Hey hey hey. What's wrong? Chu Xia came back to his senses and moved Lin Mengran's paw away. If you have something to say, don't stretch out your paws. What if you poke my eyeball? We've been talking for a long time and you just didn't respond. You still have something to talk about. I said, don't you miss Captain Joe? Lin Mengran looked at her with a smirk. I think it must be that's what happened, he said in a low voice. Have you guys had a bridal chamber yet? You think too much. Chu Xia rolled his eyes. Is this a question you can ask? Without waiting for Chu Xia to answer, Yang Xiaoli gave her a white look. Lin Mengran, do you know what's going on in the bridal chamber? You just ask nonsense. Of course I know. Then tell me. Chu Xia has a black thread, please, can you tell me about it? However, now she really doubts whether the two of them know what the bridal chamber means. Otherwise, how can the two girls who are not yet married in this era have the nerve to talk about this question as normal as talking about eating and drinking water? No, it's just. Lin Mengran's face turned red, but she couldn't tell why. I just said you don't know. Yang Xiaoli moved her head forward. Tell you, the person involved has the nerve to talk about this kind of thing. You are so confused. I'm embarrassed to say it. Tell me. Chu Xia was really curious now. Based on her feeling, Yang Xiaoli's so-called bridal chamber must be very pleasant, so she really wanted to hear it. Haha, it's still very interesting to come to this era. For the children of her era, how many things don't understand. Come here with your heads together. Yang Xiaoli put her arms around the heads of the two of them, and said in a very small voice. Lin Mengran's face turned purple-red in embarrassment, and Chu Xia's face also turned purple-red to hold back her laughter of. Yang Xiaoli said that the so-called bridal chamber is when a man touches a woman's nipples, and then there is a baby in the stomach, and then, after 10 months, the baby will be born. In the end, she said seriously that she overheard this by accident. Before, she always thought that as long as the two of them lay together, they would get pregnant, and asked Lin Mengran if she thought so too. She seemed to forget one thing happened. One of the three of them is already married, and she seems to have more right to speak than her hearsay. After her complexion returned to normal, Lin Mengran kept looking at Chu Xia's chest and abdomen. Now, it was Chu Xia's turn to be embarrassed, and she glared at him angrily. Look again, I'll dig out your eyeballs for you. Hey. Lin Mengran smiled shyly. I'm curious, do you have a baby in your womb now? Chu Xia gave her a white look. No. At this moment, Yang Xiaoli came to her senses. She squeezed her eyes in front of Chu Xia and asked meanly, I forgot that you have actual combat experience, am I right? You'll know when you get married, right? Chu Xia pouted at the two of them. It seems that you are all in a hurry to get married, right? Lin Mengran's head shook like a drum. No way. Yang Xiaoli quickly waved her hands in denial. No, absolutely not. I don't want to get married. Then why stop talking about this topic? Chu Xia stared at the two of them with disbelief. If you didn't have that thought, why did you ask endlessly? Lin Mengran pouted. Everyone has a sense of curiosity. Besides, you are married to Chief Zhou, so it would be weird if we weren't curious. After finishing speaking, he realized that his meaning was ambiguous. Quickly explained, I'm not curious about the bridal chamber between you and Captain Zhou, I'm just curious about whether you have a bridal chamber like others. Chief Zhou looks too serious, I can't imagine that he will also reach out and make a touching motion. Lin Mengran's face turned red to the ears again, and Yang Xiaoli's face turned red too, so she coughed lightly and changed the subject. Lin Chuxia, when will you go back to work in the hospital? I'll be back tomorrow. Will you stay in the hospital or go back to Zhou's house? Let's see the situation, it's not decided yet, Chuxia asked, looking at Yang Xiaoli's expression. Are there a lot of people gossiping about me in the hospital? Well, there are a few idle toothaches. I like to compare, so don't bother with them. However, you really have to go back to the hospital quickly. I'm teaching anatomy class during this time, which is very important. I can't practice well. Will directly affect your future development. Lin Mengran's expression has returned to normal, and he echoed, yes, yes, you have to come back quickly, you and Wu Jingbo are the best learners here. Now, the people over there are very proud. If we can't keep up, the only one we can compare with them is Wu Jingbo. In the coming time, I won't be absent from school for a long time. During this period of time, I mainly encountered some problems at home. Now that they have been resolved, I can study with peace of mind. Chuxia smiled gratefully at the two of them. Anyway, thanks for the reminder. My friend, why are you being so polite? Besides, we are all members of the women's medical team and we must be united. Don't let others see our jokes. Yang Xiaoli frowned slightly as she said, by the way, a medical university is about to start. Enrollment has started. All of us can sign up, and the exam is scheduled for the 5th of next month. The admission notice will be sent after the next year, and I'm hesitating. Do you two want to sign up? When did this happen? Chuxia asked. When she left, she hadn't heard the news, and Jingzhe hadn't told her. A medical university is the most famous medical hall in the country in future generations. Several particularly famous doctors. My grandpa has a friend who is in a medical university. He gave me the news in advance. Our hospital received the notification in about 2 days. I can tell you in advance. You should think about it carefully. If you want to take the exam, let's sign up together and review together. It would be too embarrassing if we fail after signing up, right? Chuxia originally wanted to agree, but then she thought that since she was married, she couldn't make up her own mind without discussing anything. Moreover, she originally planned to practice and study for a while, and then go to medical school in 2 years. Now she was only moved when she heard that it was a medical university, but she still wanted to hear the analysis from the elders about how to do it. She believed that no matter whether it was parents, old man Wan, or parents-in-law, they would not harm her. For many things in this era, she really lacks recognition. It is good to listen to other people's opinions, and now that Zhou Mikang is not around, she is obliged to spend more time with the elders. A certain summer suddenly realized that she was so virtuous and filial, and secretly gave herself a thumbs up. Hearing Chuxia said that he would discuss with his family before making a decision, Lin Mengran rolled his eyes at her contemptuously. This is a good thing, what is there to discuss? I have decided that I want to sign up, and it is too boring to stay in the hospital every day up. Don't you guys know that the senior sister who went earlier than me left all the dirty work to me, and rolled her eyes at me when she had something to do? I don't understand why she turned on me. Is it jealous that I am younger than her? It must be. Yang Xiaoli patted her on the shoulder. When the equipment comes, everyone carries 1 box. If you carry 2 boxes, do you think she will roll her eyes at you? Ah, Lin Mengran was in a daze. I just help when I meet. What's wrong with her? You were with Dr. Huang, you showed so capable, she had no choice but to follow, although they were all praised, but is it the same thing? Yang Xiaoli shook her head helplessly. When I was in the medical team, I saw that you were very clever. Why have you become so dull now? Sure enough, I can't compare with you children who are in politics. Lin Mengran lowered her head. I really wanted to break my head and didn't understand where I was wrong. It turned out to be like this, right? How do you know? Is it possible that this matter has already been passed on to everyone? She and my senior sister are friends, and she went to complain. Lin Xiaoran breathed a sigh of relief. As long as everyone doesn't regard me as a public enemy, it's fine. By the way, if you have any news in the future, let me know in time. Thank you very much. I'll try my best, Yang Xiaoli said, talking to the two of them. Each go find their elders, the banquet is about to start, let's talk back. After the two left, Yu Tao moved to Chu Xia's side and asked in a low voice, are those two your comrades in arms? Yes, Chu Xia nodded, we are all comrades in the hospital team. Now we are all assigned to 401, and we don't see many people in normal times. We are very close when we meet here. So I dragged my sister-in-law here to chat and didn't bother you. Zhang Shan felt guilty about bringing Chu Xia out and meeting Yamiru, so she spoke with a bit of flattery. It's time to say goodbye. Chu Xia smiled at her without saying a word, and they got up and sat down with MRS Zhou and MRS Lin Yang Kaijiang. Because of MRS Zhang, MRS Zhou and Lin Yang Kai were both pulled to the main table. Chu Xia and Yu Tao were arranged to sit at the same table with the juniors of the Zhang family, and Zhang Shan, who they knew well, sat beside Chu Xia, and next to Yu Tao was Zhang Shan's sister-in-law Wang Man, who was about the same age as Yu Tao. There were also a few encounters, both of which happened to be pregnant women, and they chatted speculatively after a while. Zhang Shan whispered into Chu Xia's ear, sure enough, someone has a conversation with someone. In the past, when my sister-in-law and your sister-in-law met, they just greeted each other and said polite words. Now I have found a topic. Third sister-in-law, do you want to be transferred to the table with your comrades? If you want to be with them, I can coordinate it for you. Chu Xia smiled helplessly at her. Zhang Shan, you are not responsible for what happened at that time. If you don't care about Zhou Mikang, I am a few years younger than you, talk to me casually. Okay. Zhang Shan looked embarrassed, it's all my fault, otherwise, the third sister-in-law wouldn't have to look at her face. At this moment, she has already rolled her eyes countless times. So annoying. That's why. Even if we don't meet at that time, we will meet sooner or later. She doesn't like me, so she has to find fault no matter what. Right. That's right. Zhang Shan let out a long sigh of relief, it's because I think too much about myself, and I think too narrowly about my sister-in-law. Chu Xia nodded seriously, that's right, I'm being generous. Puchi, the girl sitting next to Zhang Shan burst out laughing. She is Zhang Shan's seventh sister, Zhang Feng. Chu Xia greeted her when she came here. It's thick, isn't it? No, Zhang Feng waved his hands again and again, I think you're pretty good. Sister, come over and talk to sister-in-law San for a while. I'll go and talk to Lu Fu. At that time, she was not provoked by Yamiru. I haven't had time to say thank you to her. Zhang Feng moved to Chu Xia's side, sister-in-law 3, how old is this year? Chu Xia looked calm, 18. Actually, I know, but I just don't know what to say, so I have to ask based on my age. Zhang Feng smiled embarrassedly, does the third sister-in-law think that my question is very stupid? No, Chu Xia shook his head, we just met, didn't we just have nothing to say? By the way, are you going to school or working or serving in the army or what? Zhang Feng smiled embarrassedly, I am a literary soldier, and I can sing well, but my voice is average. I was assigned to a choir, which is still a large group, and I can't get a small group to sing. Although the voice can be improved the day after tomorrow, innate conditions are also very important. Chu Xia couldn't find a good way to comfort him, so he said, De Tuan is also very good, don't worry so much. You think so too? Zhang Feng's eyes lit up, that's what I think, I don't like fighting, if you sing solo or in a small chorus, there are a lot of conflicts, but in a chorus there are not so many messy things. Besides, I know my own conditions, and I am already very happy to be able to do what I like. However, my sister always says that I am too worthless, and I also feel that I am quite worthless, but this seems to be true. It's not something I can do with hard work, alas. Thinking back to when I was chatting with Zhongshan at that time, the other party kept pity that she couldn't be Huang Sui's apprentice, so I knew that she was the kind of person who didn't want to admit defeat in whatever she did, and Zhongfeng was obviously more easygoing. As for personality, Chu Xia comforted, it's normal to have different personalities and different opinions. It's still very important to have fun doing what you do, right? Zhongfeng nodded gratefully. Sister-in-law San, you are the first one to really support me positively, thank you. Why are you being polite? I just expressed my opinion, but it didn't help you. While the two were talking, the dishes were already coming out one after another. Although Zhou Mikang's age and status are there, everyone doesn't know how to get along with this younger brother and sister-in-law, who are much younger than themselves. Zhongshan and Zhongfeng. Now that Zhongshan didn't come back, Zhongfeng assumed the responsibility of taking care of Chu Xia. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 441. One more. Although it was the old lady's 9th birthday, it was not held in a particularly grand manner. Grandpa Zhang came on stage to give an opening speech, and invited a few senior male and female guests to the stage to say a few words, and then entered the situation where each table is a camp. In the middle of the meal, a man in his 40s came on stage and sang for the old lady, and all the guests sang along, and the atmosphere suddenly became lively. Afterwards, regardless of whether they sang well or badly, or spoke well or badly, they took turns to perform on stage, and those who made the old lady happy also went on stage to perform a section of martial arts for everyone. An old lady in her 90s, standing upright on the stage and flexibly performing punches, how can everyone not be excited? There was wave after wave of enthusiastic applause, and it felt like the roof was about to be lifted off. After the old lady finished her finishing touches, Grandma Zhang and Grandpa Zhang rushed to help her up. The old lady shook her hand with displeasure on her face. I'm not too old to move yet. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. There was a brief silence, and the audience burst into laughter immediately. Grandpa Zhang smiled helplessly. Mom, we know you're still young, didn't we rush over to help you to show respect for the birthday star? No, wait until I'm old and can't walk, then caress me. The old lady walked towards the main table vigorously, and everyone laughed even more heartily. At this moment, Huang Sui stepped onto the stage and said into the microphone, today is Grandma Jiang's 96th birthday, and I am honored to be here. I am very happy. Next, I will play a song for Grandma Jiang. I hope Grandma Jiang will like it. Wow! 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 There was warm applause. This legendary girl, no matter old or young, has an instinctive respect for her, that is, respect for the strong. Sitting in front of the piano, he turned his head and smiled at everyone. When his fingertips touched the keys, the beautiful and smooth melody sounded. Even if he couldn't sing this song, he had heard it countless times. Under Huang Sui's skillful interpretation, many people hummed along unconsciously. Different from the previous intense, this time it was more of a warm touch. Feeling the excitement of everyone, Huang Sui played it again after playing it again before giving up. When she stepped down, she naturally won the same warm applause as the old lady's previous performance. Oh! If only I had this talent. Sitting next to Chu Xia, Zhongfeng looked envious. God loves her so much, she is so smart, and her medical skills are so good. She is also very good at playing the piano. I heard that she is good at singing and dancing. Chu Xia said sincerely, that's really all-rounder. Sister-in-law 3. Zhongshan hurried back. Winking at Chu Xia, come to the toilet with me. Okay. Okay. Chu Xia got up. Zhongfeng held Zhongshan in displeasure, you really hate it, Why do you need the third sister-in-law to accompany you when you go to the bathroom? Zhang Shan looked anxious. Don't make trouble. I can't hold back anymore. Zhang Feng glared at her. You can't hold it back and you still come to look for the third sister-in-law. Comrade Lin Chuxia, please don't leave yet, okay? As soon as Chu Xia followed Zhang Shan to the center of the hall, Yamiru's voice came over. Zhang Shan pulled Chu Xia hard, and said in a low voice, hurry up, don't talk to her. After hesitating for a moment, Chu Xia followed Zhang Shan's pace and continued to walk out, but Yamiru would not let her go, so she also amplified her volume. Lin Chuxia, are you scared? Do you want to run away? Now, everyone turned their attention to Chu Xia. Of course, many people didn't know who Lin Chuxia was, but if he was named so famous, there must be something wrong. Most people have the habit of being more excited when watching the excitement, and most people also have it. Mrs. Zhou frowned when Yamiru came to the stage and called out Chu Xia's name. She really didn't expect that Yamiru would do such a crazy thing. However, afterward, I didn't think it was too strange. A girl who can do so many shameless things, what else can't she do? But now that she didn't know what Yamiru was going to do, she kept silent. Zhang Shan was still pulling Chu Xia out. Zhang Shan, stop, Chu Xia said. Sister-in-law 3. Zhang Shan winked at her anxiously, meaning to let her leave alone and leave with her. It's okay, Chu Xia smiled at her, it's never been my style to run away. I'd like to see what she's going to do. Then she turned around, stared at Yamiru on the stage, and motioned for the other party to continue. Everyone knows that once, I almost became Zhou Mikang's wife, but at that time I was too young and ignorant, and I did a lot of things that hurt him and myself. Later, I regretted it, but if I missed it, I missed it, and I can never go back to the past. The result of my hard work is that I completely lost him. He got married so suddenly, I believe, this made everyone feel unexpected. In fact, this is not an unexpected thing, he is just still angry with me, so he wants to take revenge on me. I am very guilty. If she married a high-quality woman like my sister-in-law Huang Sui, I would be happy for her, but unfortunately not. She married a rural girl from the countryside. I tried to stop it, hoping that he would not give up on himself and treat his lifelong affairs with prudence, but, as you can imagine, he simply couldn't listen. A rural woman with no culture, expertise, and background, what qualifications does she have to laugh at a woman from a family with culture, expertise, background, and music? I originally thought that her behavior like this only meant that she herself was vulgar but could not accept other people's elegance. I didn't expect that. I just found out just now that Comrade Lin Chuxia is also a master of rhythm. So, can we all feast our ears on Grandma's birthday? In this way, the big guys in this circle will forgive you for being unreasonable at that time, otherwise, you are despising everyone in our circle. What kind of insanity is this? Chu Xia stroked her forehead speechlessly. Before she could speak, Lin Yangqiu had strode onto the stage, glaring at Yamiru. Aren't you going too far? Our daughter-in-law of the Zhou family needs you to make irresponsible remarks. Yamiru smiled at her. Auntie, you have always disliked me, I know, but, for the sake of your son's happiness, you can't just take care of your own emotions, right? The old lady Zhou stood up and said word by word, if you admit your mistake now, I can still forgive you, otherwise, you will always be on my Zhou family's unwelcome blacklist. So that's the daughter-in-law of the Zhou family's junior. Yeah, I heard that he married a rural girl. Looking at it now, she looks really good and has a good temperament, but I don't know if she is really as stupid as Yamiru said. Who knows, the children in the countryside, no matter what, lack education, don't they? Oh, that's right. Anyway, I always felt that the Zhou family's mistress was a little too eager to get married. Maybe it's really like what the Ye family girl said, just to anger her, She deliberately married someone who was not as good as her and went home. Marriage is such a big deal, how can it be such a joke? That's it? Everyone watched the fun and disgust, seeming to have forgotten who is the protagonist today. Grandma Zhang blushed with anger, and looked at Grandma Zhang. Mom, why do you think the Ye family raised such an ignorant person? Why don't you just drive her out? No need. Grandma Zhang waved her hand. You kicked her out, and the third daughter-in-law doesn't look good, so don't worry about it, the third daughter-in-law has tricks for this matter. Grandma Zhang looked at the old lady in disbelief. How did you see that? I'm 96. Grandma Zhang has black lines, so she can see everything when she is 96. However, the anger that was so great just now disappeared in my heart, so I teased Mrs. Joe, and said in a low voice, my mother-in-law said, your granddaughter-in-law has something in her stomach, so don't worry too much. Mrs. Joe nodded to her, I know. You know, Grandma Zhang asked back, and the other people at the main table also looked at Mrs. Joe. Obviously, everyone was full of doubts. Solve it once, and she won't want to make trouble again in the future. This time, she must be the one who regrets it. Who else wants to get involved? It just so happens that they are all resolved together. As if to verify Mrs. Joe's words, Qin Zionji, Lin Yangkaiu's deadly rival, stood up and said loudly, Yangkaiu, why are you meddling with the children's affairs? If your daughter-in-law can't play, ask my daughter-in-law to help. She will never embarrass you in this regard. While speaking, she pulled Lu Fu, who was sitting beside her, and pushed her up. Lu Fu flashed back, Mom, let's not meddle in other people's affairs. You child, Mom asked you to help, how could it be a meddling? Qin Zionji said while pushing her up. The Zhou family had no place to live some time ago, so Mom helped them and rented the house to them. Yes, I helped once, so I don't need to help again, go quickly. Mom. Lu Fu frowned. She really didn't want to get involved with her mother-in-law's nonsense. She wouldn't have come if her fiancé hadn't asked her to come with her. You child, you don't listen to what mother says, and if you marry in the future, what's the deal? Qin Zionji whispered a threat in her ear, and pinched her again. While doing all this, Qin Zionji had a smile on her face all the time. From everyone's point of view, she was laughing and discussing things with her daughter-in-law. When things got to this point, she couldn't help but stop. Chu Xia sighed, and walked up the stage. Zhang Shan followed her with a worried face, trying to pull her, but she also knew that at this time, even if the performance was not good, it was better than retreating. Alas, it's a pity that she is not good at this, otherwise, she would be able to play with the third sister-in-law as a matter of course, alas. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 442. The second watch arrives. Lin Yangkai was still arguing with Yamiru. Chu Xia came to her, stood still, looked at her with eyes full of emotion. Mom, I can do it. Yes, she can, for her mother-in-law, for herself, and for the Zhou family's face, she must be able to. At first, I wanted to say something more, but when Lin Yangkai touched Chu Xia's eyes, she was inexplicably settled. She nodded at Chu Xia. Xia, our Zhou family married a virtuous daughter-in-law, a kind-hearted wife. You are in my mother's heart, in the hearts of everyone in the Zhou family, is the best. Mom, it's my good fortune to marry into the Zhou family, I know it. Chu Xia reached out to Yamiru, give me the microphone. Yamiru smiled triumphantly at her, I let you perform, not let you talk. Don't worry, I can perform, but I have to say a few words first, this is my right. Chu Xia stepped forward and forcibly snatched the microphone from Yamiru's hand, facing the audience, showing a sweet smile. Now that I'm on stage, please allow me to get down to business first. She looked at Grandma Zhang and said, Grandma, Chu Xia wishes you peace, health, and longevity. I wish you a good mood every day. The old lady smiled and nodded at her. Chusia apologizes to Grandma, this is your 9th birthday, but because some people feel unwilling, they ignore the occasion and mess around. You can ignore it, but I can't help but feel guilty. Grandparents, uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, and younger brothers and sisters sitting here, I believe you have always been puzzled by me, wondering why Joe Mikang took a fancy to me and why he married me. I know that too. There are many discussions about us. In the past, we all felt that happiness is our own business, and we don't need to explain it to anyone. Therefore, what others want to say is their business, so what does it have to do with us? But today, Yamiru is making such a fuss in front of everyone, but I can no longer remain silent. I can't let the person who loves me be bullied by others. Ms. Jean below, you and my mother-in-law are nothing more than jealousy. It's so weird that I can't understand the person who has done the troubled thing, and can stand up and say to help. Now I'm wondering whether you understand the rhythm or not, so I just make fun of it. Alright. No matter how much it is said, it is better to actually do it, since Yamiru thinks that she plays the piano well. It means that I can be worthy of Joe Mikang, so I will show you my piano skills. Grandma, I choose this song. I want to say, you. Always blooming Zhenjun flowers, your vitality. Absolutely youthful and invincible. Here is the song I present to you all. There is no way, in this day and age, the only songs that Chusia can choose are red songs. If she chooses anything else, she will really cause trouble for the Joe family. What she has to do is to rescue her mother-in-law and win glory for the Joe family, not let the Joe family fall into controversy. Of course, the metaphor of the song is also very good, relatively speaking, she still likes it. This is the first time in this era that she feels that her original efforts are worthwhile. She turned around and walked to the front of the piano, sat down, and the moment her fingers touched the keys, the melody played back in her heart, whether it was there or not. When the bright, expansive, and passionate melody echoed in the hall, the complexions of Lu Fu and Huang Sui both changed slightly. They have expertise in this area, so of course they can judge who is better. The faces of both of them were full of confusion. Didn't they say that this person lived in the countryside since childhood? But this skill is definitely not something a rural child can have. The singing rate of the song is no less than that of Liuyang River. Therefore, the crowd who were waiting to watch the fun began to hum along, and some old gentlemen gave Chusia a thumbs up while singing. They couldn't tell what their skills were, but the smooth tune couldn't fool anyone, and the exciting feeling made them feel like they were young again. After the song was over, Chusia didn't play it again. She got up, bowed respectfully to the audience, walked to Lin Yangkai who was stunned, took her hand, and stepped off the stage. It wasn't until the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law walked to the main table that the warm applause rang out for a long time. Qin Zionji really wanted to find fault again, so she asked Lu Fu unwillingly, is she not good at playing? Very good, better than me, better than Huang Sui. Lu Fu said truthfully, not wanting her future mother-in-law to embarrass herself again. Impossible, Qin Zionji frowned tightly, how is it possible for a rural girl? Lu Fu smiled at her, I also think it's impossible, but that's the truth. Zionji, it's impossible for your daughter-in-law to turn to someone else. Why don't you believe it? A woman on the table smiled and patted her, stop making trouble, your face will be even uglier if you keep making trouble. Qin Zionji glared at her, and stared at Lin Yangkai unwillingly. Seeing the smile on the other person's face, she felt that it was terribly dazzling. If her husband hadn't warned her not to find trouble with Lin Yangkai, she would have wanted to take Lin Yangkai's original lease as soon as she came today. Telling her about the house made her slanderous, and she finally endured it to the end. With such an opportunity, it became a chance for the other party to make a comeback. Don't mention her reluctance. Unlucky, and her future daughter-in-law is a picky person, she glared at Lu Fu bitterly, and could only let it go for the time being. Chu Xia sent Lin Yangkai back to the main table, but was left behind by Grandma Zhang, who took her little hand and looked back and forth. Tisk tisk, Minjiao, your family really married a baby, with such a personality, such a talent, I like. Auntie, don't always praise her, it's not good for a child to be proud. She said so, but seeing the corner of old Lady Zhou's mouth laughing to the ear, she knew how happy she was. The grandson's daughter-in-law doesn't know the rhythm, so of course she doesn't feel ashamed, but who doesn't like the current scene? Some people look uglier the more they are around, and some people look better the more they are around. Obviously, her granddaughter-in-law is like this. Some families were happy and some were sad. Yamiru was about to explode at this time. She was not proficient in rhythm, but she could still listen to it. Anyway, she didn't find any faults. After sitting back at the table, she asked Huang Chuai bluntly if she could hear any flaws. In the end, Huang Chuai shook her head without even thinking about it. No, she plays perfectly. Really? Yamiru stared at Huang Chuai with disbelief. Of course it's true. Huang Chuai smiled at her. She plays better than me, and it's not even a little bit, because she didn't play her best at all. How is this possible? Yamiru's eyes almost popped out. Nothing is impossible, sister-in-law, it's almost ashamed. Let's go home. Huang Chuai said, got up, pulled her up and walked out. Hey, what do you mean? Yamiru looked at the sister-in-law who suddenly turned her face, with a puzzled look on her face. We are a family, what do you mean? Huang Chuai didn't say a word. She forced Yamiru to go outside, and when she arrived at the stage, she hesitated, picked up the microphone, and said, Grandma Zhang, I'm very sorry for the collision today, the Huang family will give you an explanation. Seeing the figures of the two of them disappearing outside the door, Grandma Zhang shook her head. You have committed your own crimes, you can't live. Those sitting here are not stupid. Looking at the situation, how can they not understand what's going on? There is a high probability that Huang Chuai is not satisfied with this sister-in-law, and just took this opportunity to get rid of her, so she said, turn around, give Mrs. Zhang an explanation. It is true that someone's birthday banquet has been made like this. All the way home, Chu Xia's ears were still buzzing with compliments. This time, she became famous in the first battle. I believe that when everyone spreads the news again, it's not that the Zhou family married a worthless rural girl. Well, she wants to keep a low profile, but why should some people not let her keep a low profile? On the way, Mrs. Zhou and Lin Yangkai didn't ask her why her piano skills were so good. Maybe they didn't hear it, or they didn't ask on purpose, which made Chu Xia feel a little uncomfortable. What's wrong? Got lice? Seeing her moving around, Lin Yangkai asked with a smile. Chu Xia pretended to sigh. I'm too famous all of a sudden, I'm not used to it. You. Yu Tao poked her armpit with a smile. Will you not get used to it? You talk in a different way. If you want me, you have already panicked. Grandma, Mom, you say you are small, why did me have such a good eye, and picked up the treasure all at once? The old lady Zhou smiled proudly. Who is Xiaomi? Can he pick it up if it's not a treasure? Lin Yangkai nodded solemnly, yes. Seeing that the old lady and the mother-in-law were in a good mood, Chu Xia continued to fart. My, there are still many places for treasures. Zhou Mikang has brought the treasures home. Well, you are the cornucopia of the Zhou family. Mom has to hug her tightly, Lin Yangkai said as she hugged her, and then looked at him seriously. Xia, Mom, thank you, Qin Xianji, that dead mother-in-law. My son is about to die of anger. All these years, she has always been against me. Xia is the first one to vent her anger for Mom clearly. The old lady Zhou looked at Yu Tao with a smile. Tao, your mother-in-law is accusing us, and she has never given up. Oh, it's my incompetence. Yu Tao looked at Lin Yangkai with a guilty face. Mom, I'm sorry, The eldest daughter-in-law is too useless. From now on, I will definitely learn from your younger daughter-in-law and strive to be your caring big padded jacket. Lin Yangkai looked at her dumbfounded. What is a big padded jacket? Yu Tao explained with a serious face, Chu Xia is already mom's caring little padded jacket, so I have to make a close-fitting big padded jacket. She is caring, and I am close-fitting. Mom doesn't lack both inside and out. What's your reasoning? Lin Yangkai's eyes were full of joy as she said this. Mother-in-law and daughter-in-law are a problem for many families, but fortunately, in her house, this is not a problem. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 443. A 6,000-word chapter, 2 chapters combined. Talking and laughing, the car drove into the compound, and the old lady Zhou looked at Chuxia. Go to your grandpa Wan first. If Mrs. Yin doesn't come back, you can stay here, and let Xiaojing bring you breakfast tomorrow morning. Okay, thank you grandma, thank you mom, thank you sister-in-law. Chu Xia has been thinking about this matter in her heart, and the old woman is so thoughtful, she feels grateful from the bottom of her heart. The old lady Zhou shook her head helplessly. Whenever you are not polite to us, it means that you really regard yourself as Zhou's family. Chu Xia told the truth. Grandma, I now feel that I am a member of the Zhou family, but also a little bit distant. Don't worry, I will slowly adjust to let myself get used to it. Grandma understands that everyone came here when they were new wives. Mrs. Zhou pointed at Yu Tao as she spoke. Your sister-in-law was also pregnant, so she really felt at ease at the Zhou family. Chu Xia smiled and didn't know how to answer the question. She can't say it now. She was in the safe period. Of course, if she really said that, the old lady and the mother-in-law would definitely not feel comfortable in her heart. What's the difference? At this time, Yamiru and Huang Sui also arrived at home. After marriage, Yamiru and Huang Xinlong only lived in Wang's house for a few days, and then moved to a house in the suburbs allocated to them by Wang's family. Under normal circumstances, the 1.5-hour journey took only 50 minutes under the driving of Huang Sui, a speedster. When she got out of the car, Yamiru vomited violently while hugging the tree trunk next to the car. She swears, if it is not a last resort in this life, she will never ride in Huang Sui's car again. Huang Sui stood aside and looked at her coldly, waiting for her to straighten up. As soon as she pulled it up, she walked in. Let me go, Yamiru's voice was full of anger. With a cold snort, Huang Sui's hand tightened a little more. Hiss. The tender flesh on her arm was caught, and Yamiru's tears of pain were about to fall. Pulling Huang Sui and pulling her hand, she yelled, I'm your sister-in-law, why are you crazy? My sister-in-law. Huang Sui looked at her sneeringly. If it's really my sister-in-law, you shouldn't do things like competing with other women and taking other men's jealousy in front of me. Do you think I'm dead? You've completely embarrassed our Huang family. While talking, Yamiru was dragged into the yard. The nanny hurriedly opened the door. Huang Sui dragged Yamiru into the room unimpeded all the way. Without Huang Xinlong, she let go of her voice and shouted, Brother, brother. A man with scars on his face appeared at the stairs. The moment she saw him, Huang Sui's voice softened unconsciously, Brother, we are back. The man nodded, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Huang Sui's face softened, and she let go of Yamiru's hand. Meet the man. Huang Xinlong, take care of your sister, she's too bullying. It wasn't that Yamiru could hold her breath. The flesh on her arm was strangled just now and she couldn't speak at all. Huang Xinlong looked at his sister. What's wrong? Sit down and talk. Huang Sui sat on the sofa with Huang Xinlong's arm in her arms, and motioned for Yamiru to sit down too. Then, she sighed, Brother, you know, I am the closest to you in this family, and I have always supported you in whatever you do. However, I really didn't expect that during the few months of my close training, you would get married in such a muddled way. If it was someone else, I would only bless my eldest brother, but why is it her? If she can be restrained by marrying the eldest brother and treat the eldest brother sincerely, I will not say anything, but she is simply using the eldest brother. She is obviously a married woman, but she always remembers to compete with other women. Other men's wind eats other men's jealousy. Brother, what are you planning for such a marriage? I like her. Huang Xinlong looked at his younger sister calmly. I liked her a long time ago, but I knew that it was impossible for her to fall in love with me, so I can only bury this love in my heart. When she was sent abroad by the Ye family, I was probably the saddest one. In fact, I wanted to marry her at that time, but before I started to act, she had already married a foreigner. After she went abroad, I have been paying attention to her news through my family relationship. I know that you will not support me in doing this, so I never dare to show the slightest meaning to her in front of you. This time when I learned that she was returning to China, I was worried that there would be another accident, so I found her immediately and proposed to her. As I expected, she agreed to me. Of course, the condition is that I must help Zhou Mikang escape. I agreed, and I really fought for Zhou Mikang's matter, but you know my position in the hearts of my father and grandpa, they will not do what I say, and I am worried about how to explain to her at that time. The Zhou family was really fine. I know that without me in her heart, it is impossible for her to fall in love with me in this life, but as long as I have her, I am satisfied. I have lost a lot of things, and this is probably the only thing I can grasp. Looking at her brother's painful face, Huang Sui sighed heavily. Even if she thinks about other men in her heart, only wants to use you, and kicks you away when you are no longer worth using, you are still willing to be with her. Huang Xinlong nodded without thinking, yes. Huang Sui turned to Yamiru, you know what my elder brother thinks about you, right? Yes, Yamiru said indifferently, we each get what we need. If it wasn't because of the value, why should I marry an ugly monster who is so ugly that no one dares to look at it? I believe that even if he wants to marry a rural girl who has nothing, no one is willing to marry him. If you don't believe me, you can ask that Lin Chuxia to marry Huang Xinlong. Is she willing? Huang Sui frowned and looked at her. Even now, do you still think that Lin Chuxia is a rural girl with nothing? Yamiru, you can't compare with her in terms of looks, and you can't compare with her in terms of talent. Don't kid yourself here. Aren't you just jealous of her, so? Only then did she always want to hit her with the most insignificant thing, but in fact. Do you think she is really a country girl? Yamiru had a funny face on her face. Do I still think so? She is a rural girl, Huang Sui. What kind of benefits did she give you, and you want to protect her like this? Could it be that you really love Weivue? Do you think this will anger me? Huang Sui smiled lightly. Yes, the Huang family went to the Zhou family to propose marriage, and it was indeed rejected, but this does not mean that I like Zhou Mikang, nor does it mean that I like Zhou Mikang. It means that I will become angry because of being rejected. It does not mean that I will fight against his wife from now on. I'd better tell you the truth. You keep saying that Lin Chuxia is a rural girl, so let me tell you clearly that her family background is really no worse than yours. You know the Lin family in Beijing, right? You mean that Lin Chuxia belongs to the Lin family in the capital? Yamiru had a look of disbelief. How is this possible? I investigated earlier. She is an ignorant girl who grew up in the countryside. That's right, she grew up in the countryside, but she is indeed a descendant of the Lin family in the capital. Her father is the descendant of the Lin family's second son who has been lost for many years, and the Lin family's success in finding Lin Chuxia's father is entirely the result of Lin Chuxia's own efforts. Such a girl, you dare say she is a rural girl who doesn't understand anything? I really don't understand it now. Why did she have so many things that didn't match her actual growth when she grew up in the countryside? This is all true, and you have seen it today. Whether in speech or in talent. Her performances are absolutely remarkable. I thought that under the circumstances at that time, I had achieved that level, not only showing my hard side, but also convincing everyone with my actual ability. Yamairu, you should give up early. Such a girl is definitely not something you can retaliate against, and you will be so careful that you will finally send yourself to hell without knowing it. Huang Xinlong, who had been listening quietly all this time, looked at Huang Sui with her brows tightly furrowed. Ai, what you said is true. It's absolutely true, Huang Sui. I nodded seriously. I was there when my aunt and uncle said this. Are you playing with me? Yamairu stared at Huang Sui angrily. You already knew about Lin Chuxia's background, and you planned to please her, so you deliberately appeared at the banquet to let others think you are here to help me. In fact, you are simply trying to curry favor with her. Do I need to curry favor with her? Huang Sui looked at her indifferently. You think you only know how to mess around with your own temper, never caring whether your family will be affected or not, and whether your behavior will it discredit the family. Yamairu, you are simply a joke in the circle. If you like a man, you will sleep in the same bed with that man. If you don't like it, change another bed. If you change too much, you will feel bored. Jongbed is good. I just thought, if you are willing to go back, he should accept you unconditionally. Is it possible? If I were a man, I wouldn't even take a second look at a woman like you who doesn't know how to love herself. Following her, she looked at Huang Xinlong. Brother, on this matter, to be honest, I don't care. I know what to say about you. Huang Xinlong smiled wryly. Look at my face, as she said, which normal woman is willing to marry me? And she happens to be one of my dreams, so I think it's my dream come true. Huang Sui looked at the other party seriously, and sighed softly. My dream has come true, but the Huang family has to fall into the abyss step by step. Brother, do you want to make such a choice? Huang Xinlong was stunned for a moment, then looked at his younger sister. How can we talk about this matter? Today she's going to Grandma Jiang's birthday banquet, do you know? I know. Huang Xinlong nodded. She went with her mother-in-law. She called me and said she wouldn't be coming back at night. I agreed. When I dragged her away, her mother didn't say a word, and she didn't chase her out. She really deserves to be a family. At the critical moment, Mingj did a good job of protecting herself. Huang Xina sighed and looked at Yamairu. As I said, if you marry me and treat my elder brother well, I will really let myself accept you. Even if the rest of the family don't accept me, I will convince them. Normally, your performance in front of us is remarkable, and my eldest brother always speaks well of you in front of us. I know what happened to you in the past, so I am skeptical of what I hear and see. I sent someone to investigate what you did after you married my eldest brother. It turns out that you married my eldest brother. He just wanted to use him to benefit the Zhou family. Then I hope that one day Zhou Mikang will accept you again. By then, my brother, this stepping stone, will be kicked away by you. Of course, these are all your wishful thinking. I think unless Zhou Mikang has a brain problem, otherwise, she won't go back and marry you. It's a joke in the circle. I went to see you today just to see if you have any affection for the Huang family. If I don't see it, I might be able to bear it. But seeing you with my own eyes, trampling on the face of the Huang family like that outside, Yamairu, I have the heart to kill you. Grandma Jiang's 96-year-old birthday banquet, what a grand occasion. You actually thought of using me to deal with Lin Chuxia. Do you know the impact this has had on me? If I didn't stand up at that time, everyone would think that I, Huang Sui, went to Zhou's family to ask for marriage because of Wang's family. Annoyed, he deliberately went to the Zhang family's birthday banquet to take revenge. Then, from now on, what will everyone think of me? Yamairu, I admit that Zhou Mikang is a capable man, but it's up to him. Still can't get into my eyes, and It used to be that the Huang family and the Zhou family could not get married, but now it's even more impossible. It doesn't matter if you go crazy yourself, why did you pull me into it? Why am I on stage? It's just that I feel that for my own purpose, I have to express myself. I didn't expect you to climb along the pole and pull me into the pit. I'm curious, why did you choose Lin Chuxia as the last one? Good at something for her to play? To be honest, if you were not so persistent in your request, she probably wouldn't show her off, and not many people would notice her. Most people would still doubt the Zhou family's marriage to such a daughter-in-law. Well, it's really sleepy giving her a pillow. In the future, no one will doubt her anymore. I think she should really thank you. You really don't like Zhou Mikang. Yamiru frowned and stared at Huang Sui. You tell the truth, you don't care about him at all. Huang Sui nodded solemnly, of course. Yamiru kept shaking her head, impossible, how could you not like such an excellent man? As far as your conditions are concerned, he is the one who can be matched, and, with your character, if it's not interesting to him, it's impossible to get involved in today's affairs. How many times do you want me to say it? Huang Sui looked at her speechlessly. I just wanted to see what you were doing outside, so I rushed over suddenly. Of course, there is also a reason, that is, I know from my aunt. Knowing Lin Chuxia's background, I don't want you to really bury the Huang family in the pit. It is true that we and the Zhou family are not on the same front, but we don't want to fight to the death right now. You, Yamiru, can have no family and no country, but we, Huang Sui, can't. I understand. Huang Xinlong patted his sister's shoulder with a big hand. I will take care of my affairs, love, go and rest. Okay. Huang Sui didn't say much, turned around and went upstairs. In Ruoda's hall, only Huang Xinlong and Yamiru were left, and Yamiru unconsciously twisted her body due to the sullen yang. In the end, she couldn't stand the oppressive atmosphere, so she had to say, what do you mean? Get a divorce. After saying these 3 words, Huang Xinlong hugged his head and shoulder blades in pain, trembling slightly. After being stunned for a long time, Yamiru laughed wildly. Huang Xinlong let go of her hand, tears were streaming down her ugly face. You said you love me, Yamiru looked at him sarcastically. When the situation is not clear, you married me in order to get my grandfather's support. When the situation is clear, in order not to bring trouble to the Huang family, you have to divorce me. No, Huang Xinlong looked at her in pain. Miru, you are a dream of my youth. This dream, under my own interpretation, becomes more and more beautiful. No matter what others say about you, you are the gentle and pure angel in my heart. Marrying you is a dream that I thought would never come true in this life. Therefore, the ecstasy of marrying you cannot be understood by outsiders. I thought, even if you don't love me all your life, and you have someone else in your heart, I won't care about it, I won't feel uncomfortable. Ugly like me, it's a gift from God to have you by my side. What reason do I have to go complain? However, people are always greedy. Since you promised to marry me, I have dreamed that one day you will really like me, so I propose that after helping Zhou Mikang, you can no longer be with him. There is nothing to do with it. At that time, you asked me to help him with all your heart, and you agreed happily, but after the incident, your heart has not been taken back, in order for you to abide by our agreement. I pretended to be fierce, in fact. It's just to cover up the inner self-confidence. If possible, no one would want to make themselves look so ugly. However, this is an unchangeable fact. Since you got married, you have never looked at me in the eye, and occasionally glanced at me inadvertently. Your eyes are full of disgust. I have never regretted marrying you. Even if I was expelled from the Huang family because you made grandpa and father furious for helping you, I have no regrets, but I am a descendant of the Huang family after all. If I go on with you again, One day I will become a sinner of the Huang family. Anyway, I can no longer help you, why not let you go free? This is good for you and me. It's over. Yamiru raised her eyebrows and looked at him. Do you think you're great? Huang Xinlong, you think you're divorced? Will people in the circle still marry me? Keep saying that you love me. If you really love me, you won't give up on me at this time. When you love someone, shouldn't you be happy with her happiness? My happiness? It's disgusting, Lin Chuxia, as long as she sees Lin Chuxia unhappy. I am very happy. Of course I know that Zhou Mikang will not marry me, but it is also a good thing to make him pay attention to me because he hates me. Huang Xinlong, if you really love me as you said, don't divorce me. I will try to accept your face, try to make myself like you a little bit, okay? Okay. Without thinking, Huang Xinlong immediately agreed. With Yamiru, he has no resistance. Huang Sui, who was standing at the corner of the stairs, sighed and went back to her room. Her intelligence and ability determine that she has always been the central figure of the Huang family. Even her patriarchal father and grandfather never removed her from the Huang family's power center. She was raised like a boy since she was a child, and her performance was far superior to that of her peers, which made her thinking closer to that of a boy. In her opinion, her feelings are the bond of interests. Moreover, she is not a passionate person. Between family members and friends, if there is no interest involved, can it still be the same? Let's just talk about Big Brother and her. Originally, the eldest brother was more valued, but now, who cares what Big Brother thinks? As for the girls in the family, besides her, which one has received attention? She is kind to her eldest brother because when she was young, she was smart and always aroused the jealousy of older girls. Other brothers and sisters also envied her being favored at home, and they didn't care about others bullying her. Only the eldest brother would protect her. In this world, the only one who made her give her true feelings was her elder brother. She is responsible for the Huang family because she knows better that no matter how strong a person is, without the support of the family, it is difficult to turn out a decent wave. If it weren't for the strong backing of the Huang family, would her medical skills really have gone so smoothly? Most importantly, without the support of her family, no matter how good her medical skills are at her age, it is impossible for her to become the vice president. Her ideal, of course, is not just to be a good doctor, she has a bigger goal, and this must have the support of the family. Both long and short are mutually beneficial and detrimental. All this time, everything was under control, but unexpectedly, there was such an anomaly as Yamiru. If it was another member of the Huang family, she would not consider the other party's emotions, she would just state her own opinion and drive Yamiru out of the Huang family. Such a woman with a chaotic private life was absolutely intolerable to her. But that person was the eldest brother, so she put down her busy work and ran to grab Yamiru's bag. As a result, what she thought was a sure thing, was quickly reversed with just a few words from the other party. This is the way things are in this world. If it wasn't for someone who valued affection, elder brother wouldn't have protected her in the first place. It is precisely because of too much affection that today brought her such a big problem. Sitting in the room thinking wildly, the door was pushed open, she turned her head to look over. Huang Xinlong pulled the corner of her mouth at her, because of the scar on his face, he couldn't smile like a normal person. Brother. She smiled and moved to the head of the bed, motioning for him to sit beside her. Huang Xinlong sighed, stood there, took her head into his arms, and after a while, said softly, Love, brother knows, I'm embarrassing you, but you are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 444. One more. Brother, this incident will spread quickly. Grandpa and Dad will not allow her to be part of the Huang family. If you take the initiative to divorce, she will suffer less damage. I know Huang Xinlong's voice was full of depression. I'm sorry, guilt appeared in Huang Sui's eyes. Today's situation was caused by her. At that time, she really felt that it was not worthwhile for eldest brother to be with such a woman. Even just now, she still felt that she was doing the right thing. But now, seeing the pain in her elder brother's eyes with her own eyes, she was not happy at all. Regardless of whether the woman is worth it or not, as long as the elder brother likes it, she can find a way to restrain her, so why do you have to get to this point? In this instant, she understood her eldest brother's tolerance towards Yamiru. She was as rational as she was, let alone her elder brother. Ai, it's big brother who's sorry for you. Huang Xinlong sat beside his sister and put his arms around her shoulders. Don't worry, big brother won't do anything to embarrass you in the future, just being crazy once is enough. She turned her face sideways, touched that ugly face with her hand, stroked it gently, and said in a voice like a dream, brother, as long as I'm here, I won't let you be wronged. Huang Xinlong bit his lips hard to prevent himself from crying out loud. He is an elder brother and should protect his sister, but because of this face, he has become a burden to her sister. Ah! The shrill cry woke Huang Sui from her sleep. She quickly got out of bed and ran to her brother's room. She had a very bad premonition in her heart. The door is locked. She ignored the rules and etiquette and kicked up. Yamiru stood at the door of the bathroom, hugging my head and howling. She ran over, her eyes were tearing in an instant. She kicked Yamiru down, ran in and jumped high and cut the rope, and hugged Huang Xinlong in her arms. His body has stiffened. The moment she hugged him, she knew it was too late. No matter how good her medical skills are, at this time, she is useless. Hope was shattered, and he couldn't find the motivation to live. He didn't want to continue to trouble his sister, so he chose to go to another world, which was the content of his suicide note. Holding his cold body, holding the last handwriting he left her, she was like a puppet, without thoughts or souls. Yamiru came back to her senses, and left with her packed luggage last night. She told Huang Sui that he had already decided to divorce me anyway, and his affairs had nothing to do with me. Did Huang Sui hear that? She didn't know, anyway, she didn't want to stay in this house for a moment. She to him. There is no love at all, at this time. Not even the slightest bit of sympathy. Such a cowardly man does not deserve her sympathy. And, obviously, by doing so, he chose his family, his sister. From now on, the Huang family will regard her as an enemy, so why should she pretend anymore? If he really loved her, how could he leave her with such an ending? When Chuxia came home from get off work and got the news, she had a look of disbelief. The impression of Huang Xinlong came from Zhou Mikang and Jing Zhe's narration, and based on what he did before, she felt that he was taking advantage of others. Although Yamiru is not a good person, his actions show that he is not a good person either. But now, he committed suicide because of Yamiru. But she couldn't help but not believe it, because at this time, members of the Huang family were at Ye's house, demanding that Yamiru, as his wife, must go to guard Huang Xinlong's spirit. Is Grandpa Ye okay? Chu Xia asked after listening to her mother-in-law. She still had a good impression of Mr. Ye. He was old and had high blood pressure. She was really worried about him. Your grandfather Ye hasn't come back yet. He and your grandfather have both gone to the capital, and they probably received the letter and rushed back now. Lin Yangkai couldn't help sighing. It's a crime to have such a daughter. Marrying a wife who understands is more important than anything else. Chiang Yuxian is a woman who looks clear but is confused, and blinded. The child Mrs. Zhou sighed and stood up. I'll go back to my room to rest for a while, don't call me for dinner. Gone. Lin Yangkai winked at Chu Xia. Grandma, I'll help you back to your room. Chusia stepped forward and took the old lady's arm. I learned a trick today, Grandma, do you want to try it? What's the trick? The old lady asked vigorously. Pinch your feet. Hee hee. The old lady laughed. What kind of stunt is this? Chusia explained solemnly, Grandma, you can't underestimate this foot pinching. It was taught by Lin Mengran. Her family is not from a family of martial arts. It is very tiring after one day's practice, and then pinching the feet will wake up the next day. Very comfortable. This is to pay attention to the acupuncture points, and you can't pinch them randomly. If it weren't for my smart memory and good memory, I wouldn't dare to take on this job right now. Grandma is the treasure of our family. I wouldn't dare to try something I'm not sure about. Xia, Grandma is fine. The old lady patted Chusia dotingly. Go and play by yourself, don't accompany me, an old woman. Once you wake up, everything will be fine. Grandma. Chusia looked at her worriedly, and without waiting for the other party to speak, she let go happily. Grandma, if you want to try it, tell me. The old lady nodded with satisfaction. Okay. At dinner, the old lady didn't eat. Lin Yangkai wanted to send it in, but Chusia held her back. Mom, Grandma can't eat, why don't you let her be quiet? If we keep asking and caring, she will feel even more uncomfortable. Hey, sighing, Lin Yangkai had no choice but to give up. The Zhou family's favorite Yamiru is the old lady Zhou, so even though she and Zhou Mikang have been separated for many years, the old lady still hopes that they can reunite. Of course, the old lady doesn't know the inside story, which is also one of the reasons. After marrying Chusia and learning what Yamiru had done, she no longer has any affection for Yamiru. But, after all, she was the child she once liked. Now, how could she be so calm when something like this happened? In her opinion, if it weren't for her insistence at the beginning, Yamiru would not be so persistent in wanting to be with Zhou Mikang again, and she would not marry Huang Xinlong for the sake of Zhou Mikang's heart, and she would not with Huang Xinlong's heart. He committed suicide. The old lady's guilt and sadness now are because of Huang Xinlong, not Yamiru. For such a dedicated man, no matter how bad his reputation was originally, at this moment, he will not care about it anymore. In the middle of the night, Mr. Zhou and Zhou Jingping and his son came back. It wasn't a surprise to see them when Chusia got up in the morning. With the relationship between the Zhou family and the Ye family, if this happened, Mr. Zhou would definitely accompany Mr. Ye back. As for the father-in-law, Zhou Jingping, he has a good relationship with Yamiru's father, Ye Zhonghe. Besides, the two families have been on the same rope all along. At this moment, it is impossible to really watch from the sidelines. To put it bluntly, what happened to the Huang family this time was just an excuse. Yamiru was indeed wrong, but the Huang family was so fanatical about Zhang Luo, and Zhang Luo was so afraid of chaos in the world, they just wanted to take advantage of this incident to get what they wanted from the Ye family. Originally, when Huang Xinlong married Yamiru, the Huang family turned a blind eye and closed their eyes in the hope that their relationship with the Ye family would develop. On the contrary, then, Yamiru, the daughter-in-law, becomes a tasteless one. Of course, in the eyes of the Huang family, the disfigured Huang Xinlong is also a tasteless one. Now, the chicken ribs have become chicken thighs, how can I not catch them? It wasn't Chusia's turn to get involved in these matters, so she didn't worry too much. After eating, she waved her paws with the elders and went to work. If you want to be a useful person to the Zhou family, the most important thing is to make yourself a useful person as soon as possible. She has been on leave for such a long time, and she is hurrying to make up for missed classes. As for the admission to a medical university, she thought she would discuss it with Zhou's family when she matured. After all, she didn't have a charter herself now, and, when it was such a mess, how could she add to the chaos? Things about Yamiru spread quickly. In the whole hospital, there seemed to be whispers about the matter of the Huang family and the Ye family. As one of the parties involved, Chu Xia was speechless and helpless when listening to various versions of romances. People's imagination is really too powerful. Under everyone's interpretation, Huang Xinlong's disfigurement was also destroyed to save Yemiru. So much so that Luo Xiaoxian deliberately grabbed her and asked if that was the case. However, Luo Xiaoxian, who knew about the past between Yemiru and Zhou Mikang, was very happy about Yemiru's misfortune. Her idea was very simple. If you bully my friend, you have to pay a price. Yang Xiaoli and Lin Mengran also quietly looked for Chu Xia, but they came to give her a thumbs up. They thought that the Zhou family was venting their anger for Chu Xia. What a mess. A light flashed in Chu Xia's mind. Huang Sui. That's right, all of this should be written by this woman, right? She has such deep feelings for Huang Xinlong. Now that Huang Xinlong is gone, what she wants is to drag people into the water as much as possible. It seems that only in this way can her brother go away with more peace of mind. Chu Xia felt that geniuses should be very vengeful, so she inferred like this. She went back and forth and recalled the details of that day, feeling that she had nothing to offend Huang Sui, so she let go take a breath. It is absolutely disgusting to be stared at by such a person. Of course, if the other party remembers her hatred and retaliates against her because of her brilliance, there is nothing she can do. Not to mention that she didn't expect today's consequences. Even if she did, she wouldn't do it for Huang Sui's sake. Face, regardless of mother-in-law and Zhou family's face. Moreover, Zhang Qi and Ma Chao are always by her side, so what is there to be afraid of? In an instant, someone was full of blood, blue and fighting spirit. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 445. Don't worry, everyone, Nuan won't abandon the pit. It's just that I haven't been feeling well for the past 2 days, and it's been a little longer. Today, I feel much better, and I will resume normal updates tomorrow. Wang Jing expressed great enthusiasm for Chu Xia's return, and whenever she had free time, she asked Chu Xia to ask questions, always going around to Jingzhe. If we keep procrastinating, she and Song Xiao will make Wang Jing hate him. Jingzhe and Zhenmei got engaged on the 9th day of the Lunar New Year, and the hospital will definitely spread the word afterwards. Rather than being hated by Wang Jing at that time, it is better to find an opportunity to unintentionally reveal the news to her. During the lunch break that day, Song Xiao went to the dean's office. Only Chu Xia and Wang Jing were left in the office. Wu Jingbo and Luo Xiaoxian also came to visit. They sat there chatting and naturally talked about applying for the medical university. The notice has been sent out, which is in line. Most of the age conditions are very exciting. Chu Xia, have you discussed with your parents-in-law? Luo Xiaoxian asked. No, I haven't had time these days. I'll discuss it with them when I go back today. What about you? Did Dean Su give you any advice? Luo Xiaoxian was not very confident about her culture class, and said she wanted to discuss it with Dean Su. Since Chu Xia had never lived in the dormitory, she could only rely on meeting at noon every day to understand the progress of the matter. Dean Su also felt that my cultural foundation was a bit weak, and suggested that I wait for a year to review and take the exam next year. However, she felt that it would be difficult for me to make great achievements in technology, and suggested that I apply for management. Wang Jing looked at her enviously. Xiaoxian, you are really lucky. Dean Su's words are like a guarantee for you. She will definitely take care of you when you arrange work in the future. Hey. Luo Xiaoxian smiled embarrassedly. I also think I'm lucky. Chu Xia, what do you think I should do? I still want to hear your opinion. Wu Jingbo just laughed. She hasn't decided on her own. What advice can I give you? Then how did you decide? Me? Wu Jingbo shook her head with a smile. I don't want to take the exam this year. I still plan to exercise with the teacher. Anyway, my age will be fine even in 5 years. I'm not in a hurry. Hey. Luo Xiaoxian pushed her shoulders. To tell the truth, you don't have any thoughts about Mr. Jing, do you? Huh. Wang Jing's eyes flickered, and she quickly lowered her head. Chu Xia deliberately glared at her. Xiao Qian. How dare you make such a joke? Okay, I must tell Captain Zheng to see if she doesn't beat you up. Luo Xiaoxian raised her eyebrows. It's not engaged yet, why should she beat me up? I'm engaged on the 9th day of the first lunar month. Now I'm telling you. Will you still talk nonsense in the future? Get engaged so soon, Luo Xiaoxian sighed pretendingly. When the news spreads, I don't know how many girls will be heartbroken. When they heard about Jing Zhe's engagement, Wu Jingbo and Wang Jing's expressions changed. However, Wu Jingbo quickly regained his composure, but Wang Jing grabbed Chu Xia's arm. He asked anxiously, You mean that Director Jing Zhe of our hospital is getting engaged? Yes, my brother is getting engaged, Chu Xia nodded. Senior sister, why are you so excited? I. Wang Jing got up in a panic and walked out. My stomach hurts, I need to go to the toilet. When Wang Jing went out, Wu Jingbo stared at the two of them, and said word by word, You two definitely did it on purpose. Yes, Chu Xia admitted frankly, I don't want her to get too deep, and I don't want her to hate Teacher Song and me because of this matter. It's better to break it in this way than to let her after the news spreads after the Chinese New Year. Much better to know. I also like Teacher Zheng. I know. Chu Xia looked at her calmly, that's why there are only 4 of us, otherwise, Mei Jun and Daodu will definitely come over. You two bastards, do you consider me a friend? Wu Jingbo's lips trembled, obviously, she was trying to suppress her emotions. The first man she fell in love with at the beginning of her love affair was over before she even had time to say I like you. If she could do this, she already had super self-control. Yes, Luo Xiaoxian looked at her affirmatively, don't you think that having Wang Jing at the bottom will buffer a lot of negative emotions? Excuse. Chu Xia looked at her, actually, you should have known about Teacher Jing and Team Zheng for a long time, but you chose to turn a blind eye. However, your performance today was beyond my expectation. I thought you would not admit it, so I used this method to protect your face. Obviously, you like Teacher Jing more than I imagined, and at the same time, you are more brave than I imagined. You can be a partner with the teacher at work, don't think about anything else. It's almost time, I'm going back. Wu Jingbo stood up and walked out expressionlessly. Wait, Chu Xia grabbed her, are you angry with me? What do you think? I'm sorry, Chu Xia sincerely apologized, I underestimated you, I'm really sorry. Yes, you look down on me too much, I really like Jing Zhe, and I came to the women's medical team for him, so you can't even imagine how happy I am to be his student. I only recently found out about him and Team Zheng. Team Zheng must have known my intentions. She purposely went to the teacher when I was on duty. Although I didn't say it clearly, the meaning is obvious. In fact, I already understand it very well in my heart, but I still want my dream to last a little longer. It's not that I have to come together with the teacher, I just want to make this beautiful dream come true, and it will be a matter of time before I wake up. So, no matter what you say today or not, when they get engaged, it will be when I wake up from the dream. You don't have to ask me to listen with you, understand? I'm sorry, I took it for granted. Chu Xia sincerely apologized again. You are also kind, I know. Wu Jingbo patted her on the shoulder, I need time, sorry. After speaking, he turned and opened the door, and left without looking back. Have we done something clumsy? Luo Xiaoxian leaned on Chu Xia's shoulder, is it superfluous? Probably. Chu Xia spread her hands, okay, I'm going to work soon, you can go back too, I will discuss the matter of a medical university when I get home tonight. whether I take the exam this year or not, I should discuss it with my family. This is the minimum courtesy. Yellow Xiaoxian responded and backed out. Chu Xia was the only one left in the office. After a while, Wang Jing came back with red eyes. She didn't say a word to Chu Xia until she went to work. Chu Xia's temperament is also quite stubborn. She doesn't think the other party has anything to blame her for this matter. Since you don't speak, then I don't bother to talk to you, so I just go over my homework on my own. After Song Xiao came back, of course, she noticed the change between the two of them, took a moment to pay Wang Jing out, and asked Chu Xia what happened. Chu Xia told the truth, and Song Xiao said apologetically, Chu Xia, this matter is caused by the teacher. She has been with me for several years. Seeing her happy face, I can't bear to tell the truth. Unexpectedly, the matter became more and more complicated now. I should have said this, don't worry, I will explain it to her later. Chu Xia suddenly realized that, as a teacher, she has good medical skills, but she really lacks skills in dealing with others. If she really went to find Wang Jing, wouldn't it make the other party hate them even more? Teacher, just pretend you don't know anything. You also have to pretend you don't know about my brother and Captain Zheng. If you want to say it, isn't that why our partner has been watching her jokes? Do you think she will, comparing? After pondering for a long time, Song Xiao finally understood, and patted her forehead vigorously. Oh, I'm all to blame, Chu Xia, I'm really sorry, you just let you take the blame. Chu Xia looked helpless. Who made you my teacher? When I got home at night, Chu Xia told her mother-in-law about it, and Lin Yangqiu smiled and said, your teacher, you don't have any medical skills, but in dealing with people, you are similar to children, just a straight line, not at all. Take the corner, in the future, you have to give her a little bit of attention. Chu Xia has black lines all over her head, so she can remind her of the teacher? Lin Yangqiu saw the bitter face, and smiled, it's okay, you can just mention her. She knows what's wrong with her. At that time, she was chosen as your teacher because of her good medical skills, and because I don't have bad intentions, and I won't think about getting something from you, but the downside is that you are with her, and you have to win her a little bit, so as not to be troubled by her. The old lady Zhou also nodded. Xia, listen to your mother-in-law, Xiao Song is such a person, her mind is all on medical skills, and there is something missing in her heart. What does it mean that there is something missing in the heart? The corners of Chu Xia's mouth twitched, and he tried his best to hold back his laughter before he said, Grandma, Mom, I have something to discuss with you. A medical university is about to take an exam. I want to hear your opinions. The old lady Zhou looked straight. What do you think? Chu Xia looked directly at her calmly. Grandma, I want to stay with you and Mom first, and wait for Zhou Mikang to come back. Seeing the sincerity in her expression, Mrs. Zhou nodded and looked at Lin Yangqiu. What do you think? Chu Xia is still young. I don't want her to be locked up at home just because she married the third child. If she likes it, I think sooner rather than later. Young age is also a treasure. What do you think, Mom? Well, I think the same as you. Mrs. Zhou looked at Chu Xia. I will discuss it with your father and grandfather later, and if they agree, I will help you get your school status in advance. You learn things quickly, and when the time comes, you can practice while studying, take the exam, and stay here at ordinary times, which can be regarded as killing two birds with one stone, but then you will have to work harder. As for you, think about it and give me the answer tomorrow night, so I can decide what to do. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 446. One more. When Lin Yangqiu and Mrs. Zhou talked about their thoughts, Chu Xia had been enduring the tears in her eyes. She really didn't expect that they would think of her like this. In fact, She had discussed this matter with Mr. Wan in private, and both of them felt that the Zhou family would not object to her going to a medical university, but they probably would not particularly support it in their hearts. Regarding Zhou Mikang's age, what they want more is that she should give birth to the next generation for the Zhou family early, and take care of her husband and children, which can be seen from Lin Yangkaiu. It was too extravagant to say polite words, but she felt uncomfortable without saying anything or doing something, so she happened to sit between Mrs. Zhou and Lin Yangkaiu, and she simply hugged the two of them and burst into tears. This child. Mrs. Zhou patted her funny. Okay, why are you still crying? If you want outsiders to bump into you, you think your mother-in-law and I are bullying you. Impressed, Mao Xia choked. With a faint sigh, Lin Yangkaiu hugged her head in her arms and stroked her smooth hair. Mom is worthless, she is willing to stay at home, you are different from your mother, how can you not worry about your future, make a plan. Mom is really good at coaxing people. Chu Xia raised her head, smiling with tears in her eyes. Don't worry, Grandma and Mom, I will definitely live up to my expectations, and won't let anyone say that Zhou Mikang married an idiot. The old lady Zhou smiled helplessly. If someone misunderstood you in the past, it is understandable. This time, your performance in Jiang's family is obvious to all. Who dares to say that you are an idiot? You have to think about yourself first. Chu Xia simply asked the question that had been simmering in her heart. Grandma, Mom. Isn't piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting banned? If I ask an idiot, don't laugh at me. The old lady Zhou said with a smile, this is an idiot. It's normal for you not to understand. After all, these people are relatively seldom involved with ordinary people, and there was indeed some discrimination against such talents a few years ago. Ever since some rehabilitated old artists were invited to perform at the Army Gala the year before last, everyone felt that the useful things of the ancestors can still be kept, and they should discard the dross and extract the essence. These techniques, ordinary people's children have no chance to get in touch with. Even in the circle, there are not many young people who are proficient in it. Yamiru is holding on to this matter. She just wants to hit you with her family background, but she didn't expect that stealing a chicken would not be a big deal. That's all. I said that your performance is obvious to all, not just because you play the piano well, but also because of your bearing and your words. It's definitely not something a girl from a small family can do. Chu Xia smiled happily. Grandma, although I am a girl from a small family, I am still very happy to hear your praise. Grandma saying this is not to say that girls from small families are not good. It's just a matter of fact. In terms of education and training of children, the family must have more than enough energy but not enough energy. From awareness and acceptance. Even if conditions permit, most families would not allow their children to touch things in this area before. I think it's a plaything. Even now, if boys put all their energy into this aspect, you will still be laughed at for nothing. Girls are relatively tolerant. It's so contradictory. People need to be familiar with it, but they are not allowed to learn it. Chu Xia smiled and shook his head, and he also roughly understood that after a long period of suppression, people's pursuit of beauty and art began to sprout, and gradually, it would grow from the dark. It turned out that in the mid to late 1980s, as long as conditions allowed, many parents desperately wanted their children to learn piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting, especially piano. But as far as matters are concerned, piano can cultivate sentiment, chess can exercise strategy, books can calm the mind, as for painting, it can cultivate aesthetics. Promote. However, the reason is this: many people tend to commit the problem of eager for success and daring to compare, and in the end, they will turn a skill that really tempers people into a skill that tortures people. The original intention naturally no longer exists. Like her, when she was forced by her mother to practice the piano, didn't she turn from interest into torture? After she has a baby, she must not force him, her. She must be an absolute democratic parent, and the child can learn whatever she wants, and she will never impose her will on the other party. Someone seems to have forgotten that she is not married to an ordinary family, not a simple family of three. Lin Yangqiu slapped her forehead fiercely. By the way, Xia, before you came in, your parents called and said that they have returned to Dalian village today, and they will come to our place in a week, so don't worry about it. Really? Chu Xia's eyes were full of surprises. It's great. Seeing Grandpa Wan alone every day makes me feel uncomfortable from the bottom of my heart. When my parents come, I will have him as a companion. Lin Yangqiu laughed and teased her. Don't pass on your own hopes to Mr. Wan. Chu Xia smiled embarrassingly. Why are you talking about it? Grandma. I'm back. Grandma Mrs. Ying-er. The door opened, and Ying-er trotted in and threw herself into the arms of Mrs. Zhou. Xiaojing came in with her school bag, her expression a little unnatural. After saying hello, Xiaojing looked at Mrs. Zhou. Grandma. Ying-er stared at her. Grandma said, talk about your own affairs, you don't need to complain. Xiaojing stood there with her mouth half open, embarrassed, not knowing what to do. Ying-er, sit down. Mrs. Zhou pushed the little girl away with a serious face, and motioned her to sit opposite. Ying-er reluctantly sat across from her, glared at Xiaojing again, and said, Grandma, Zhang Xinyu in our class laughed at me as an unwanted child, so I beat her up. The teacher was eccentric and asked me to apologize to her, and I was not wrong, so why should I apologize to her? And Xiaojing went, and the teacher sued me, saying I was disobedient. Grandma, don't ask Aunt Xiaojing to pick me up from now on. It was Zhang Xinyu who made a mistake. She also apologized to Zhang Xinyu's mother and teacher, and she didn't know how to protect me. The child's personality changes are absolutely astonishing. When he first came, he was extremely timid. He only knew to hide behind Mrs. Zhou and hardly spoke. Ever since eating dumplings and crying didn't work, her personality has taken a 180-degree turn, and she chattered endlessly in front of the old lady every day. The old lady couldn't stand her noise and hurried her to the hospital. In the Yuheng class, I didn't expect her to be beaten by someone on the first day, and then on the second day, and today she was the one who beat someone. Old Mrs. Zhou really had a headache for this child. Considering the child's sensitive identity and personality, it was not convenient for others to educate her, so the burden fell on her. Now she has a big headache when the Yuheng class is over at night. Just now while talking, she forgot the time, and seeing this little girl sitting in front of her, talking nonsense, her temples twitched. However, Chu Xia thinks that the current Xiao Ying is more likable than the newly arrived Xiao Ying. When he first arrived, this child had a gloomy and scary temper. He was obviously a child of a certain age, but he liked to hide and watch people. His eyes were sinister. Scary. Ying-er, do you want to go to my room to play for a while? Seeing the old lady's distress, Chu Xia reciprocated. She was treated as if she were her own granddaughter, and she should be filial to help share it. Chu Xia Mrs. Zhou was a little worried that Ying-er would hold a grudge, so she wanted to stop her. Chu Xia smiled at her. Grandma, it's okay, we are all family. Xiao Ying protested, I won't play with you, I want to play with my grandma. Chu Xia looked at her seriously. Xiao Ying, if you think what you did is right today, follow me to my room, otherwise, you are a coward who dare not admit your mistakes. You are the coward. Ying-er climbed off the sofa and walked to Chu Xia's room on her own. If you dare to beat me up, I'll tell grandma, and she won't like you in the future. Seeing that Chu Xia entered the room and closed the door, Xiao Ying said with some bravado. Why did I beat you up? Chu Xia glanced at her. It seems that you yourself know that you don't respect me enough. Remember, in the future, I am your third aunt. If you don't respect me well, your third uncle will come back. It will definitely throw you out of this house. Grandma and grandpa have the final say in this family. Wrong, Your third uncle has the final say in this family. You're talking nonsense. Xiao Ying stared at Chu Xia. My grandma said that grandma and grandpa have the final say in this family. As long as I listen to them, no one will dare to bully me. Really? Then you can try it and see who kicks you out. Chu Xia looked at her leisurely. Anyway, I won't pity you when the time comes. You for a moment, Xiao Ying's face changed into a flattering smile. Third aunt, I will listen to you from now on. Don't let third uncle kick me out, okay? I don't have the pain of my parents anymore, and neither does grandma like me. Great grandpa and grandma will scold me when they see me. I am so pitiful. It is said that the children of the poor are head of the family early, but the speed of maturity of children who have suffered major changes like this is even more frightening. In the beginning, the child only stuck to the old lady Joe and dared not speak, because she felt that it was her only backer, and she had to stay close to the old lady to have a sense of security. Crying is a way for her to fight for power. When that method failed, she quickly changed to another method. After staying in the Joe family for such a long time, she has obviously realized that Chu Xia is more important than her in this family. This shows that she shunned Chu Xia when she first saw him, and then she chose to ignore him when she saw Chu Xia. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 447. The second is more, children who leave comments in the comment area. I have seen your opinions, some are pertinent, and some are wronged. Explanations are the most powerless. I will try my best to write well. I like it. Thank you for your support. I don't like it anymore. Thank you for your support. For children, it is also a self-protection instinct to provoke them and hide them if they cannot be provoked. However, this also shows from the side that Xiao Ying was not taken seriously when she was in Xiao's house. Otherwise, it is impossible for a 5-year-old girl to undergo such a big change in personality in such a short period of time. Her changeable personality should have been cultivated since childhood. Do you want to stay in this family? Chu Xia looked at Xiao Ying and asked seriously. The little girl nodded without hesitation, yes. Then you have to treat this place as your own home, and treat everyone in the family as your closest relatives. Seeing the confusion in the child's eyes, Chu Xia smiled wryly. She really regarded him as a child prodigy. How could there be so many Huang Sui in this world? Thinking about it, Chu Xia changed her strategy. Ying, I think you were right to beat up that classmate today, and I support you in this matter. Really? Xiao Ying's eyes lit up. Third aunt, you think I did the right thing, don't you? On the way, Aunt Xiao Jing scolded me all the way, saying that I had lost her face. Pinch me, I hate her. She scolded you? Chu Xia looked straight. Then why didn't you tell grandma? Third aunt, do you believe me? Xiao Ying stared at Chu Xia with bright eyes. Third aunt, you really believe what I say? Don't you? Of course. Chu Xia nodded. I believe you are not a bad boy who likes to lie, right? Xiao Ying nodded vigorously, grabbed Chu Xia's cuff, and shook it lightly. Third aunt, you will pick me up from school later, okay? You can't lie to children about this kind of thing. Chu Xia calculated the time and found that it was impossible to pick up Xiao Ying, so she told the truth. Ying, when I work in the morning shift, I can pick you up after school. Middle shift and the night shift is not enough. I will pick you up when I can pick you up in the future, okay? Okay. Xiao Ying's small face rubbed against Chu Xia's hands, giggling. Third aunt, your hands are so fragrant and soft, I want to have such beautiful hands when I grow up. Okay. Chu Xia nodded, and hugged her in his arms. Said softly, Ying, can you not deliberately use some bad ways to attract everyone's attention in the future? The little girl raised her head and stared at Chu Xia with big eyes. What is a bad way? It's like when you first came. In order to want your grandma to love you, you cried when things didn't go your way, but when you found that crying didn't work, you quickly changed to another method. Can you tell your aunt? Why do you want to do this? What to do? I said that my aunt will always like young right? Yes. My aunt likes honest children. The grandma and grandpa in my hometown don't like young but grandma likes young and grandma doesn't want to send young to grandma's house, but if grandma doesn't send young grandpa and grandma will let uncle and aunt beat grandma. Young didn't want bad guys to bully grandma, so she asked grandma to send young to her grandma's house. On the way, grandma said that only grandma likes young so others cannot drive young away. Grandma said that only by staying at her grandma's house can young be successful, and she can take care of grandma to enjoy the blessings. When young grows up, she must let grandma enjoy the blessings. Child. The child's narration is not logical, but Chu Xia basically understands the meaning. Obviously Xiao Binki's parents don't like Xiao Binki's wife, Lu Yui, and they also don't like their great-granddaughter. Now Xiao Binki's father and son have an accident. The Xiao family no longer wanted to take responsibility for Xiao Ying. Lu Yui sent her to the Zhou family for the sake of her granddaughter's future, and at the same time instilled in her a lot of truths that the child could not fully understand. Like fine points. Since she came to this family, she has always been awkward, and everyone was concerned about Zhou Yiping's mother and daughter, and they were unwilling to be too harsh on her, and adopted a strategy of not being able to offend her but hiding her. That's exactly what she wanted, so she intensified the tossing, and only hoped to stay with Mrs. Zhou all the time. In her opinion, the only way to stay with Mrs. Zhou was the safest. But after staying for these days, she also felt that what grandma said was not all right, so after expressing her affirmation and kindness to her in early summer, she poured out her thoughts in one go. Originally, things were very simple, but they were all artificially complicated. These days, including the mother-in-law and the old lady, they often worry about young in private. Do you think she is only young and has such a scheming personality, so she will be fine when she grows up? In fact, it's not that she is scheming, it's just that she read the scriptures taught by her grandma wrongly. The adult's fault, why is the child guilty? Even if she stays in the Zhou family now, without the love of her parents, her life is not perfect. Young Chu Xia gently stroked her head. In the future, if you have any happy or unhappy things, tell your aunt. If someone bullies you, tell your aunt too, okay? Okay. The little girl twisted her body and got off the ground, staring at Chu Xia eagerly. Auntie, don't you really hate Young? Of course it's true. Chu Xia nodded vigorously. Young is so smart, so beautiful, and so sensible. Why does my aunt hate Young? However, Grandma and Grandpa said that I am a debt collector and no one will like me. They said that Grandma likes me because she wants to sell me for money when I grow up. Hey, Chu Xia sighed, what kind of parents really raised their children? If there were no such parents, I guess Xiao Binki's father and son's personalities would not be so weird, right? Do you know why your great-grandfather and great-grandmother don't like you? Yes, they like the ones with handles, and they say I don't wear handles. In early summer, there are black lines. Some old people in the countryside really like to speak so openly. After thinking about the wording, they said, they don't like girls, so they say such things. In our family, both boys and girls like it. So, as long as Young is an obedient little princess, no one will dislike her. Half an hour later, Chu Xia dragged Young's little hand downstairs, and it happened that Josei Kang picked up Yu Tao and came back from get off work. The little girl took the initiative to call uncle and aunt, and then grinned at the old lady and Lin Yangkaiu. Usually sat next to Chu Xia. Lin Yangkaiu smiled admiringly at her youngest daughter-in-law, and waved at Young. Come and sit with grandma, okay? Okay, the little girl sat down beside Lin Yangkai obediently. What's wrong with Ying'er today? Yu Tao wondered, looking Ying'er up and down with doubts on his face. Our Ying'er family has always been obedient and smart. I didn't know how to get along with everyone before, but now I already know. Chu Xia looked at the little girl. Ying'er, do you want to give a thought report to my aunt? Auntie, Ying'er will never make you angry again, and won't rob grandma with you. You want to love Ying'er, okay? This little guy, Yu Tao patted her head happily. You've become a big girl all of a sudden, brother and sister, I can't tell, you are really versatile. Now you know how powerful the third child is. Josei Kang sat beside his wife and said with a smile, the third child is really a standard I. Hee hee. Mrs. Joe smiled contentedly, she was finally relieved. While everyone was talking, Ying'er kept snuggling up to Lin Yangkai's side, clutching Lin Yangkai's sleeves. Her calves were swinging, she finally looked like a 5-year-old child. A child's heart is the most sensitive, who is really good to her and who is not good to her, you can clearly tell the difference. When Zhou Shanping came back from get off work, Ying'er called her grandfather to throw herself into his arms. He hugged his granddaughter reflexively, but his eyes were full of doubts. These days, he almost made this little granddaughter worry to death. He knew how to cling to the old lady every day, and would not listen to him no matter what he called. If he said something serious, he was afraid of hurting her self-esteem. If he didn't speak, he was worried about the old lady's health. Now such a scene is what he wants even in his dreams. The wife is gone. The daughter is gone. Now it's just him and his son. He cherishes the arrival of his little granddaughter. It's a pity that the little granddaughter has never seen him in her eyes. Today, what happened? Ying'er hugged his neck and said softly, Grandpa, I will listen to you from now on and stop rolling my eyes at you. Zhou Shanping said repeatedly, okay, okay, okay. Ying'er is really sensible while talking. She looked at the old lady Zhou suspiciously, and the old lady pointed to Chu Xia's position. Zhou Shanping looked at Chu Xia with gratitude. This little granddaughter who lost his father's love and mother's love at a young age is now his heart and soul. It is really great to be able to pull it back in time. This evening, everyone had a very happy time. The stone that had been pressing on everyone's hearts was finally relieved. If you want to relax completely, of course you have to wait for Joe's father and son to return completely. Sleeping hazily, Chu Xia felt a fiery body behind her close to her, and then hugged her tightly in her arms. In an instant, she became sober. Just as she was about to shout, she felt that it was impossible for a stranger to enter her room with Joe's guards. Then, she whispered in disbelief, Zhou Mikang. That fiery body moved and hugged her tighter. At this moment, she was completely sure that she could smell the breath on his body, so she chuckled, I knew it was you without saying a word. Why are you back now? Miss me? His voice was seductively hoarse, his big hands had already slipped into her clothes while speaking, playing tricks on her. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 448. Don't move. Chu Xia pressed Zhou Mikang's big hands that were making trouble on his body, his voice was full of accusations, speak well, don't move. Moving hands and feet does not hinder talking. Zhou Mikang deliberately blew into her ear, causing her neck to curl up, and then chuckled, daughter-in-law, do you miss me? I don't want to. Chu Xia stretched out her mouth and bit his arm, I'll get angry if you move around again. Zhou Mikang didn't speak, turned over and pressed on the precious daughter-in-law, raindrops of kisses fell on her face and lips, and the joyful one with big hands walking on her body. At first, I wanted to bite his mouth full of blood, but the moment my teeth were pressed down, my heart softened inexplicably. Also, at this age, I haven't seen him for more than a month, in fact, the main reason is that she was also a little emotional when she was kissed. Simply, let's just go. Feeling her relaxation and cooperation, Joe Mikang was overjoyed, and his movements became more gentle. Although he was suffocated to death, but a little wife should be cherished, and siege and plundering ponds also need to be planned. When she turned into a pool of spring water under his body, he stepped forward, singing softly, his fiery body embraced tightly. After Yunxiaoi rested, Chu Xia lazily nestled in his arms, found a comfortable position, and continued the previous question, "Why did you come back suddenly?" "Come back for a meeting, there won't be any problem for a while." Joe Mikang caressed her hair, her body became hot again, feeling the change in him. Chu Xia frightened and pushed him away. "I'm sleepy, I'm going to sleep." "Okay, go to sleep." Joe Mikang circled her and hugged her in his arms. "Remember, when I'm at home, you must let me sleep in your arms. Otherwise, you will be at your own risk." I wanted to argue a few words, but the conceit of the consequences frightened her. She made up her mind, and felt that the conceit he said must be the same as what she thought, so she curled up obediently in his arms and tried to sleep. For a long time, seeing that her body was still stiff, Joe Mikang sighed, "Chu Xia, you still reject me so much?" After hesitating for a while, Chu Xia stammered, "No. No." She was afraid of hurting the pride of the head of the regiment, although she had little experience in getting along with husband and wife. "But it feels like being honest is definitely better than saying nothing." "Then why are you lying so stiff?" Joe Mikang patted her back with a big hand. "It's hard enough to be ironed, and you said you didn't reject me." "No." Chu Xia exhaled slowly, let herself relax, and said, I don't accept you, or, you are too. There was no sound after that. She was really embarrassed to go on. Heard it before. The stronger the man, the longer the time, the kind of sex several times a night, women will be particularly sexually blessed. But in fact, she found that for a green and immature fruit like her, she met a man who was strong and could make a few times over a long period of time. It was really a torment. The night before he left, he asked her twice. The first time was okay, but the second time she really felt that half of her life was about to be lost. "The more I look forward to him ending, the more I can't end it, and I'm too embarrassed to say it. Maybe it's because she doesn't love enough, or it's because of her body. Anyway, she's really scared." Feeling his body change again at this moment, the fear from the bottom of her heart came to her, and she was even thinking that if he really wanted her, maybe she would be in the shadow of this matter in the future. "Okay, I got it." Joe Mikang forced her into his arms. "Just get used to it." Chu Xia said weakly, "For the time being, I'm not used to it yet." "Okay, when you get used to it, let me know." "Chu Xia." Joe Mikang chuckled. "Excuse me," he said domineeringly, caressing the softness of her chest, "this benefit is still to be given." Her body froze again, and after staying for a long time, she saw that he was just stroking her chest with his hands, and did not make any other movements, so she slowly relaxed. Her body relaxed, but her mind couldn't relax. After counting sheep for a long time, she still didn't feel sleepy at all, so she sighed angrily. "Just talk if you can't sleep," Joe Mikang said. "Aren't you tired?" Chu Xia turned over and looked at him through the dim light of the small lamp in the room. Didn't it mean that a man would be particularly sleepy after doing this? "Not tired." Joe Mikang straightened up the pillow, moved his body up, and hugged Chu Xia in his arms. "These days, when I'm by myself, I always miss you. Do you miss me?" Since he left, she has been doing things constantly. It seems that she really didn't miss him in particular. She didn't want to lie, and she was afraid that he would be unhappy, so she hesitated and didn't know what to say. "He has no heart," he muttered, poking the tip of her nose. "Remember, from now on, when I'm not around, think of me every day, miss me deliberately." Chu Xia didn't want to get entangled with him on this topic, so she said, "By the way, my father is not my grandparents' own." Have you received the letter I wrote to you? I haven't received the letter yet, but my father called me and told me. Joe Mikang lowered his head and kissed her on the forehead, and smiled lightly. The backing is getting bigger and bigger, I will try to curry favor with you. That's right. Chusia raised her eyebrows triumphantly. Who dares to say that I'm not good enough for you in the future? Joe Mikang followed her heart and said, well, everyone will say that I am not good enough for you in the future. Hey. Chusia laughed, I still have self-knowledge. For the time being, this kind of statement is impossible. After a pause, she continued, by the way, a few days ago I accompanied Grandma and Mom went to celebrate Grandma Jiang's birthday, and then she saw Yamiru and Huang Sui. Why, is Yamiru picking on you again? When Joe Mikang asked this question, his voice was obviously a bit cold. Do you still need to ask? However, she didn't take advantage of it. Chusia told Joe Mikang what happened that day in detail, and finally smiled embarrassedly. Do you think God is too close to me? Well, I think so. He knew that she came from another time and space, and he also knew what her specialties were, so he felt lucky at the same time as it was a coincidence. That. Chusia got up on his stomach and stared into his eyes. Do you like Huang Sui? Joe Mikang stared at her. I am your husband. Chusia smiled embarrassingly. Well, am I curious? By the way, do you know Huang Sui? You think she's pretty, don't you? Good. If she went on a blind date with you before you met me, would you choose her? Won't. Why? Chusia sat up straight and stared at him. Why don't you like such a smart and beautiful girl? Why should I like it? Chusia was asked a black thread. It doesn't make sense. How many men don't like such a smart, beautiful, and capable girl? Even if you can't marry because of objective reasons, it doesn't hinder your appreciation, right? It would be unscientific to say that there is no feeling at all. Remember? He straightened her body and made her look directly at her. Don't ask me which woman I like or not in front of me from now on. This kind of distrust is what I hate the most. Stingy. Chusia pouted and protested, I'm just curious, how can I distrust you? Curiosity doesn't work either. You are too domineering. Who told you to think nonsense? I hate it. Chusia glared at him. Chi Leng got into the quilt and curled herself up into a shrimp, expressing that she was angry. Joe Mikang sighed, and his voice softened. We haven't seen each other for a long time, don't confront me as soon as we meet, okay? I also review myself, I shouldn't shout at you, I'm sorry. The bag in the quilt began to bulge. Originally, she wasn't wronged much, but after being coaxed by the head of the group, she really felt wronged, and the more she cried, the sadder she became. In fact, she didn't know why she was sad. There was no other way. Joe Mikang had no choice but to forcibly dig out the bag from the quilt, held her in his arms, and patted her. Okay, look at you, like a child, why are you crying like this while talking? Be obedient, let's not cry. If your eyes are swollen tomorrow, you won't be pretty. You don't want to go to the hospital and people will ask you why your eyes are swollen from crying, right? If others know that I'm back, why do you think I bullied you? Baby, don't cry, please, let grandma and mother see it tomorrow morning. You still don't know how to scold me, I'm sorry, my little aunt, please. The more she persuaded someone to cry, the sadder she became. The group leader Tongzu really wanted to kneel, and he didn't do anything outrageous. How could she be wronged like this? Okay, I'm done crying, I feel much better. Chusia patted his arm, let go of me, I'm going to wash my face, otherwise, my eyes will be swollen tomorrow. Joe Mikang. Daughter-in-law, what the hell are you trying to do? Going to the bathroom to wash your face in cold water and coming back, not to mention sleepy. Chusia sighed, humph, if I get panda eyes tomorrow, it's all your fault. Can you tell me what you were sad about just now? Asked Tongzi, the head of the regiment, who had been puzzled for a long time and didn't understand the situation. He was really confused about this. In order to avoid such a situation from happening again next time, he had to ask clearly. Situation. I don't know. Chu Xia shook his head and looked at him innocently. I didn't want to cry at first, but when you coaxed me, I couldn't control my emotions, but after crying, my heart was very open. The head of the group, Tongzi, expressed that he was entangled. In the future, should he continue to provoke her, or should he not? In other words, in the past, what he hated most were crying girls, but today she was crying like this, and he wasn't particularly bothered. This is so wrong. Updated today, more tomorrow.